Good afternoon, everyone. Today is July 8th, 2025, and this afternoon we have several public hearings. And before we open up the hearings, we're going to begin today's council session with general business, and there are no announcements today, but we do have minutes to take action on. We have minutes from June 10th, 2025 and June 17th, 2025. The council sessions have been circulated to colleagues for review. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, these minutes are approved. Next item on today's agenda is our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Council Vice President Giwando moved. Councilmember Katz seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Great. So we will get on now to our public hearings. Item number 2 is a public hearing on Bill 21-25, Taxation, Daycare, and Child Care Property Tax Credit. This bill would increase eligibility for the Daycare and Child Care Property Tax Credit, increase the amount of the tax credit, and update terminology in accordance with state law, and generally amend the law regarding property tax credits in the county. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for July 17th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 10th of 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You'll hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have 4 speakers who are here in person. First, we have Delegate Julie Polakovich-Carr, Davida Raleigh, Kimberly Rusnak, and Christopher Canoe. You all want to come down? All right. Delegate Polakovich-Carr, if you'd like to start.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, I'm Delegate Julie Polakovich-Carr, here in strong support of the ordinance. First of all, I want to thank Council President Stewart for her leadership on this issue and just for very promptly getting this ordinance in just a couple of months after the enabling legislation was signed into law at the state level. And also like to thank the entire council. I know this is not the first action you're taking on childcare. You really have paid a lot of attention over the years, and greatly appreciate your support and dedication on that front. As you know, we really are in the midst of a childcare crisis here in Montgomery County and really across the entire state of Maryland. Far too many families are struggling to find high quality and affordable child care. It actually costs more to have your child in daycare than it is to send them to college. So this is a real issue. Meanwhile, many of our providers really are struggling, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about that today. We've lost about a quarter of our child care workforce in the last few years and about 15% of the businesses since the pandemic. So this is a real struggle from both sides. I was very proud this session to sponsor enabling legislation at the state level along with Senator Nancy King that allows this ordinance before you today. We are addressing this from a number of angles at the state level. We know this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, but I do think this is an important piece of the puzzle in terms of addressing childcare affordability. So I'm in some strong support of the ordinance. I do just want to speak to 3 pieces in regards to implementation as we think about next steps and hopefully when this ordinance passes. First of all is outreach. The current tax credit was only reaching 5 businesses countywide. And hopefully we can do better with this next iteration to make sure that child care providers are aware of the credit and have an easy time applying for it. Second is in terms of renters. My intention with the state legislation was that child care providers, whether they owned their facility or their home where their child care business was located, or if they rented or leased, would be eligible. I think that's a piece that we can solve. We've done it for other types of property tax credits that are available for businesses. Hopefully we can do it here as well. And the third piece is in regards to municipalities. I know that several municipalities in our county, including the ones that I represent, are interested in offering their own property tax credit. Hopefully there will be an easy and seamless way for them to integrate with this county program, and also just to make it really easy for providers to just do one application to get both the county and the municipal credit should those municipalities also approve their credits as well. So with that, again, thank you for all that you're doing.
Great. Thank you, Delegate Polakovich-Carr, and thank you for all your work in Annapolis to enable us to do this. Next, we have Ms. Raleigh.
Good afternoon, council members. For the record, my name is Davita Rowley, and I'm here today representing the Montgomery County Community Action Board as the chair. And we are the county's local, state, and federally designated anti-poverty group. We strongly support the County Council Bill 21-25, which would expand eligibility for daycare and child care property tax credit and increase the amount of that tax credit. We advocate for economically disadvantaged residents, and we're the governing body for Head Start and the Community Action Agency, and we always have advocated for a robust mixed delivery child care system. This will help the county, achieve that goal by providing more financial support to child care providers, many of whom are facing immense financial burdens in order to stay in business. There's, of course, research showing that high-quality early childhood education programs improve school readiness and can have a significant impact on long-term academic success. In Montgomery County, the kindergarten readiness rate is at 44%. This rate varies quite a bit depending on race and ethnicity, as you know, level of English language proficiency, income, and of course, Black and Hispanic children, those with lower household incomes and English language learners are seeing lower readiness rates. So we hope to be able to expand these high-quality childcare options in the county and be able to improve the rates. Alleviating these costs that childcare providers are facing can help avoid those significant increases in the cost of childcare. Want to just point out that according to the 2023 Montgomery County Self-Sufficiency Standard, a household with 2 working adults and a preschooler and an infant would need to earn $138,317 annually to cover their basic necessities. That's over 4.5 times the federal poverty level. This is the single largest expense for families, 28% of their monthly budget, and so these policies will really help to achieve the self-sufficiency standard. Finally, we just want to draw attention to the extensive study that was conducted by the Montgomery County Early Childhood Education Initiative last year that found that the estimated annual cost to provide child care ranges from $13,000 to $28,000 in centers and from $8,400 to $16,000 in family child care homes, depending on the age. So a significant impact would be had through this tax credit. And so we ask you to continue to explore other opportunities to support child care providers and county families struggling to afford child care. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rusnak?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kimberly Rusnak. I'm the Executive Director of the Montgomery County Children's Opportunity Alliance. The Children's Opportunity Alliance fully supports Bill 2125 to amend the existing property tax credit for daycare and child care. We applaud Montgomery County for taking the opportunity to revise this property tax credit. We are particularly pleased to see that this bill would increase eligibility for the child care property tax credit by including large family child care homes. As a county that values equitable access to opportunity, it is important to include all types of licensed child care providers in our strategic resource offerings. The state of Maryland regulates child care to ensure providers are meeting the health and safety requirements established by the state. The state includes different categories of family child care homes. A family child care home provider may care for up to 8 children, while a large family child care home may care for between 9 and 12 children. According to the most recently available data on licensed child care programs in May of 2025, there are approximately 63 large family child care homes in Montgomery County. Without this legislation, these 63 providers would not be eligible for this tax credit that their smaller family child care provider peers can apply for. We're also pleased to see that this legislation increases the amount of the tax credit from $3,000 to $10,000. The child care industry is a fundamentally flawed business model in the United States, and in which the true cost of providing quality services costs more than parents are able to pay for it. This results in extremely low wages for early childhood educators, constant stress and turnover in the industry, and lower quality of education programming, all of which impacts the critical early education children are able to receive and the ability of parents to remain in the labor force. It is an economic imperative to intervene with public support in order to address this dire situation. We are working with our partners at the county's Department of Health and Human Services, both to ensure that implementation of this property tax credit is done in fidelity to the spirit of the enabling legislation at the state level, and to think through and support outreach and awareness raising activities to reach eligible providers so that they know how they can benefit from this opportunity. We ask that you vote in favor of Bill 2125, and we thank you for all you do to ensure that every young child in Montgomery County has an equitable start in life, creating a stronger future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Canoe. And you have 5 minutes because you're also speaking on item number 8, which is Bill 22-25, Labor Peace Agreements Hotel Development Project.
Thank you very much, Council President Stewart. Members of the Council, my name is Christopher Cano. I serve as the Director of Political and Legislative Affairs for SEIU Local 500, which you know is one of the largest and most diverse unions in the region. And we proudly represent thousands of educators, school staff, and family child care providers across Maryland who form the foundation of our early childhood education system. And I ask you today to stand with me in strong support of Bill 2125, which will provide the property tax exemptions for child care centers in Montgomery County. This legislation represents not just a smart investment in Montgomery County's working families, but a vital lifeline for an industry that continues to struggle under the weight of rising costs, low margins, and a shortage of accessible care. The Council has the opportunity to lead and match its rhetoric around supporting families, women, and small businesses with concrete policy. Family child care providers and child care centers are not just places where children are kept during the day. They are early educators, often small business owners, who make it possible for parents to work and for our economy to function. This legislation is a smart and necessary step to help stabilize and sustain the child care sector, and is still recovering from the economic strain that COVID-19 pandemic placed on it, and they continue to face ongoing workforce shortages. Earlier this year, SEIU Local 500 was proud to stand alongside the delegate here to make sure that HB 389 was passed, which allows the local government to grant tax credits up to $10,000 per property for real estate used as child care centers. This legislation also expands the eligibility for credits to include large family child care homes and businesses that provide on-site child care for their employees. And this bill was a clear recognition that providers are essential. It signaled a new direction on how we treat child care in Maryland and how we address it in our workforce. Child care is not just a private responsibility. It is a public good that keeps our society functioning. In Montgomery County, we're committed to these ideals. By exempting child care providers from property taxes, we can reduce one of their most burdensome costs and help stabilize a sector that is crucial to working parents and the broader economic recovery. This is especially important for family-based providers, many of whom are women of color, operating out of their homes and working long hours to keep our youngest learners safe, nurtured, and prepared. And the intent of this bill is clear. Montgomery County supports child care providers by easing their financial burdens. It helps keep costs down for families. It supports small businesses that are women and minority owned, and strengthens the child care workforce. And these are the values that we as a union at SEIU Local 500 fight for every day. And this is more than a tax bill. It is a clear declaration that Montgomery County values child care as a public good, and it's a step toward an economy that works for working people. And therefore, I urge you to swiftly pass this bill. And thank you for your time, your continued partnership in improving our child care system. In regards to the other bill that I've come here to testify before you today, let me just jump to that one real quick. In regards to labor peace agreements, these are a condition of the county's economic participation in hotel development projects. This legislation is about protecting public investment and promoting stable labor relations and ensuring that people who do the work have a fair shot at organizing for better wages and working conditions. We've already seen the consequences of failing to be proactive to protect workers' rights and organize in regards to the strife that's been brought about with the Montgomery County Conference Center. When workers are intimidated, pressed into captive audience meetings, and flooded with anti-union propaganda, it creates a working environment that sends a clear message of exploitation over justice, of subordination over dignity. No public-private partnership should allow such shenanigans. And when the county commits public dollars through leases, financing guarantees, or tax incentives, it also assumes financial risk. Just like any smart business partner, the county should demand protections for its investment. Labor peace agreements are a proven tool to reduce the risk of costly labor disputes, such as picket lines, strikes, and boycotts that can jeopardize the success of these projects and, by extension, the county's financial stake in them. This is not just prudent policy, it is a moral commitment to good jobs, of workers having a voice. Hotel and hospitality workers, many of whom are Black, brown, immigrant, and women, are often on the front lines of economic inequality. They deserve a clear pathway to unionize without fear of retaliation or economic warfare, and Bill 2225 creates that pathway by requiring neutrality from employers receiving county support while ensuring labor peace in return. The legislation also aligns with Montgomery County with jurisdictions like Baltimore City that have adopted similar policies policies and affirm our county's leadership in progressive labor standards and smart economic development. Let's be clear, Bill 2225 doesn't impose a mandate on private enterprise. It sets expectations that when our county's money's on the table, if a developer wants our support, they should guarantee workers can freely organize and that projects won't be undermined by labor strife. That's just common sense. That's fairness. So SEIU Local 500 urges you to move swiftly to enact Bill 2225. Let's ensure our public investments and our public values are reflected in what they are, economic justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who came for this public hearing. This public hearing is now closed, and we will now move on to item 3, which is a public hearing on the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways 2025 technical update. A Transportation and Environment Committee work session is scheduled for July 21st, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 14th, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We will begin with the first set of speakers. We have first Artie Harris, Kenneth Bauer, Jean Brown, Ann Smith, and Benjamin Ross. And Chair Harris, you can start us off when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good morning, or good afternoon. For the record, I'm Artie Harris, Chair of the Montgomery County Planning Board, Council President Stewart, and members of the Council. Over the past year, the Planning Board has hosted 3 public hearings and held 4 work sessions to review technical updates to the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. The Master Plan of Highways and Transitways is a functional master plan which provides guidance and tools for transportation investments throughout the county. The plan's goal is to develop a sound, balanced, and flexible transportation system that helps to build and maintain livable communities within the county. The plan is intentionally multimodal, focused on serving the people of Montgomery County. For this technical update, our guiding principle has been to ensure that the master plan furthers the goals of Thrive Montgomery 2050 and incorporates necessary changes to align with the passage of County Bills 24-22 and 34-22 that revise street types to align with the county's complete streets design guide. The Planning Board draft recommendations include updates to classifications of master plan roads, ensuring that each road is accurately and contextually classified based on the surrounding land use and the roadway function, identification of target speeds for all master plan roads, introduction of a new approach to street design focused on the growth corridors identified in Thrive Montgomery 2050, and lastly, and updates to master plan transitways and transit station locations to ensure consistency with ongoing bus rapid transit planning at the Montgomery County Department of Transportation. Additionally, in response to strong community outreach, the Planning Board requested planning staff to evaluate Mid-County Highway, otherwise known as M83. After much discussion and analysis, the Planning Board recommending removing the northern extension of M83 between Montgomery Village and the Ridge Road from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. The board also recommended conducting a comprehensive study of travel needs in the Clarksburg to Germantown corridor to assess whether there is sufficient master planned transportation capacity to accommodate planned development. We look forward to working with the T&E committee and with the council as a whole over the coming months to review and adopt the plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Harris. Next, we have Kenneth Bauer.
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, Vice President Jawando, and council members. My name is Kenneth Bauer. The Coalition to Stop Stream Destruction asks you to approve the Planning Board's recommendation to remove the northern section of Highway M83 from the master plan. And thanks to Mr. Harris for his testimony. For more detail, please read our written comments and please watch the video we submitted. Let me summarize the points in the video. It is a video of the destruction done by the Glen Allen engineered stream restoration near Brookside Gardens. Damage done to streams by the M83 project will be mitigated by stream restorations that will destroy forests like the one in this video at some other location in the county. The video shows heavy construction equipment in the stream bed itself. Any animals like frogs, turtles, toads, and small mammals that can't outrun the equipment will be crushed. Fill material is dumped into the stream. Large mature trees are cut. These trees will be replaced by small saplings. In fact, they already have been. The stream at the M83 mitigation site will be turned into an engineered stormwater conveyance like the one in the video, filled with rock rubble. Published paper has analyzed over 700 engineered restorations to show that water quality and ecological function are not improved by these mitigation projects, and sometimes made worse, and less than half stopped stream erosion, which is the primary reason they're done. For stream restorations, unfortunately, our DEP and parks hide tree numbers to be cut, falsely claim that wildlife habitat lost by forest clear cutting is only temporary and is quickly mitigated by planting saplings. And they hide the loss of property values due to viewshed destruction, increased traffic noise, decreased shade, privacy, and nature-based recreation. M83 construction would continue the county's shameful legacy of destroying our forests and streams, first by the highway itself, and second by the federally required mitigation of an engineered stream restoration. Please watch the video and then try to explain to residents why the destruction of our natural resources is justified by reducing a car trip by a few minutes. We urge you to approve the Planning Board's recommendation to remove the proposed M83 northern section from the master plan. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next we have Jean Brown.
My name is Jean Brown, and I'm speaking on behalf of Dayspring Church, asking you to remove the proposed M83 highway from Montgomery County's master plans. The time is now to act with courage, creativity, and a commitment to the long-term health of our county. Dayspring Church stewards over 200 acres for the Church of the Savior, owned by 7 churches. Along with countless others, we've come to know this open space as sacred space, a place where the Spirit can break through into our busy lives, demanding lives, where we can be quiet long enough to remember truths that are deeper than the present challenges that we're living in. It was over 15 years ago that Dayspring brought me to the county and has kept me here. I'd read about those to whom practicing their faith meant living a life in service to the communities in which we live. Their beliefs led them to work on behalf of inner city ministries and begin Dayspring, because the depth of their activism and its demands led them to understand the importance of retreat if they were to continue to sustain their work over time. Places of retreat and stretches of natural land are becoming fewer and farther between. Dayspring is more than a place for overworked humans. It's also home to a complex web of life, spanning the smallest microbial networks in the ground beneath our feet, to the tallest of trees providing air and shade and holding the ground from washing away. Dayspring and the surrounding natural areas are irreplaceable. They're an asset to our county and to the Seneca Creek watershed. If building M83 were allowed to proceed, the project would wipe out the massive interior forest. The discernment before us today is about the wider community and what's needed for the health of all living along the alignment. My father built roads for a living. He taught me the names of trees. He's a civil engineer and a very practical man. He likes to tell me that one of the most important principles in life is balance, along with not being afraid to take a stand. It's time to take a stand. We need roads to drive on and undeveloped areas so that we have places to retreat from the frenzy of this world, to be renewed in ways that enable us to return to the work that we are called to do. Dayspring forests, creeks, and meadows help provide the balance our guests need. I am here today because I feel a sense of urgency. The time is now. I urge you to remove the proposed M83 highway from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ann Smith.
Thank you. My name is Ann Smith. Please remove the M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. In the 1960s, planners drew a line they now call the M83 along a steep hill parallel to Seneca Creek, cutting through wetlands, source water, meadows, and the interior forest. At that time, many roads in Montgomery County did the same. Sligo Creek Parkway, Beach Drive, and Davis Mill Road were all constructed. However, today, road plans such as these have been shown to have detrimental effects to the streams, rivers, and the Chesapeake Bay. The additional highway parallel to Route 115 from Route 28 in Rockville all the way to Route 27 in Clarksburg was not chosen in order to preserve source water for Rock Creek. The same should be true not for choosing the M83. Complete streets deliver more equitable opportunities. We now know exactly what each street enhancement should have. Existing roads do not have what is now in that master plan. Evidence of new construction of Stewarttown Road indicates that the planners and the developers are not following a complete street design. When existing roads are complete streets, total mobility will increase for all people. Capacity to move people will increase, and there will be no need for the M83. I ask for the removal of the proposed M83 highway from the master plan for social equity and environmental reasons. I think the current roads, when they comply with complete street master plan, will be enough to move people efficiently. Please remove the M83 from the master plan of highways and transit waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Benjamin Ross.
Good afternoon.
Leave it. No, leave it.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ben Ross, and I'm speaking as an individual. Now, the only possible justification for building M83 would be that it relieves traffic congestion, but it won't. Those who claim 83 will relieve congestion point to the Mid-County Corridor study done in 2017. That study used the MW-COG travel demand model. The COG model cannot tell you whether a new highway will reduce traffic congestion. It assumes the answer to that question, and it assumes the wrong answer. How much congestion relief will come from a new highway depends on how much added car traffic will show up as a consequence of building the highway. The assumption buried in the COG model is that new traffic will be negligible. In congested cities and suburbs, experience shows just the opposite. New highways fill up with added traffic. A U.S. DOT report released last December documents this based on many years of research. Since President Trump took office, this report has been deleted from the federal website, so I have attached it to written comments that I submitted. The U.S. DOT report tells modelers to assume that driving will increase in proportion to the amount of new roadway. It's good advice. But once you make that assumption, you already know that the model will predict no change in the overall level of congestion. Now, of course, traffic won't be the same everywhere. Probably it will get better on roads parallel to the new highway and worse on roads that feed into the new highway. That's just common sense. The computer models could potentially help you figure out where specifically the traffic will get better and worse, but only if they made the right assumption. Anyway, the bottom line here is very simple. New highways don't fix congestion. You don't need a computer model to tell you that, and the computer model that's out there cannot tell you otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone on this panel who testified today. I will call up the next panel: Margaret Shope, Edna Miller, Barak Bishnoi, Evan Fernando, Deborah Sariba. And apologies in advance if I mispronounced anyone's name, and you can correct me when you come up. Margaret Shope can start us off.
Good afternoon. I'm Margaret Shope from Germantown. In the last 12 years, numerous government decisions have directed the county to expand transit service, and 9 agencies have rejected building M83. In 2013, the council unanimously passed the Bus Rapid Transit Functional Master Plan, pledging to move into a transit-first era. Also in that year, the Parks and the Planning Departments recommended examining a transit alternative to M83 to put into the Mid-County Corridor Study. 2 years later, in 2015, the EPA, the Corps of Engineers, and the Maryland Department of the Environment all rejected a wetland permit for M83 as it violated environmental and racial equity requirements. 2 years after that, 2017, DOT issued a supplemental report for their Mid-County Corridor Study, finding BRT on 355 North performing better in key metrics than building M83. Also in that year, the council passed 2 key resolutions. The first one was Transportation Solutions for Northwest Montgomery County, which excluded M83 Highway from being used in future master plans. And the other one followed that, the Emergency Climate Mobilization. And I want to quote something from that resolution. Achieving 100% greenhouse gas reduction by 2035 will require a massive cultural shift and a willingness to support and discuss measures currently regarded as politically charged. And here we are today. In 2022 and 23, the region's Transportation Planning Board deleted M83 from the federal funding priorities list in response to a request from this county. And in the last 8 months, we have all followed the Planning Board's review of M83 as part of its work on the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. And as you know, they voted unanimously to recommend to take out the 5-mile northern section. The county county executive and the DOT have written both the Planning Board and the council requesting removal of M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. M83 does not align with Montgomery County's values. It is time to remove it from all master plans and to move forward with improving public transit for all its residents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Edna Miller.
Hello?
Yes, you're good. We can hear you.
Hello, council members. My name is Edna Miller, living in Montgomery Village since 2003. I am a stakeholder in this matter and speak for myself. For the record, my address is 19317 Clubhouse Road, Unit 104, Montgomery Village, Maryland, 20886. I agree with the Planning Board's recommendation to remove M83 route from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways in the technical update for the following reasons. A. In 1992, that county council unanimously voted against building M83 route before approving the Watkins Mill Road Bridge construction, preventing any possible M83 intersection with that bridge dedicated in 1997. B. In 2016, the final M83 supplemental report had hidden in section 4.A.iv. Scenario 2 on page 4-2, in case you want to look it up, a traffic flow requirement. If M83 is built, two-way traffic must be maintained at all times to provide access to and from landlocked communities of Blunt Road, Grassy Knoll Terrace, and Gateland Road. C. The County Council in 2017 passed this resolution after the Planning Department studied the M83 corridor alternatives for 15 years. I'm saying 15 years. 15 years of study already. The quote is, prohibits use of the proposed M83 in land use plans, land development projects, and for addressing future roadway capacity needs and regional traffic movement. D. In the Planning Board's charter, it says, quote, "The Planning Board has a legal mandated duty to avoid interfering with the rights of landowners to the full use of their property when they approve platted highways, such as Mid-County Highway Extended, M83 route, or M83 route by any other name. In conclusion, all the reasons stated above further support the Planning Board's recommendation to you, the Council, for the full Council vote to remove M83 route from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways in the technical update. Thank you for this opportunity to speak during this hearing.
Thank you very much. Next is Barkar Bishnoi.
Good afternoon. My name is Barkar Bishnoi, and I'm a student at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm the president of Richard Montgomery's Climate Club and an intern for the TAME Coalition. As a youth environmental advocate, I speak on behalf of many of my fellow peers in stating that the proposed M83 highway jeopardizes the future that we all hope to inherit, one that is livable, equitable, and sustainable. At school, I worked with peers to push for greener school buildings statewide, and I hope to carry these experiences into a future into environmental law to continue protecting communities and ecosystems. But right now, my generation is growing up watching climate change occur in front of us, and this has made issues such as the M83 highway all the more critical. As a former Clarksburg resident, I understand the frustration surrounding long commute times. However, the data makes it clear. This $1 billion construction offers mere minutes of improvement in travel time. That is an enormous investment for a minimal return. But more importantly to us students, M83 goes against the environmental values that Montgomery County embraces. We say that we are stewards of our parklands, yet this highway would destroy 100 acres. And meanwhile, the transportation sector is the largest source of direct greenhouse gas emissions in our country, and expanding highways contribute exponentially to this issue. Montgomery County has been well regarded as a climate leader, and we students ask that we do not let this set us back. Just a few weeks ago, I hiked with other students along the proposed corridor for M83. As we walked, we witnessed the habitats, animals, and native plants that would all be wiped out. But we also saw the potential impact on people. This park is a place for communities to gather. For some, this is their very own backyard. This highway would come within 20 yards of where children play and neighbors gather. Sustainable and practical solutions exist. I've advocated for electrifying the MCPS bus fleet, but beyond electric buses, we also require more buses in general to serve up-county residents. Car ownership is out of reach for many families, and other youth, elders, and people with disabilities lack the option of driving. Many county residents rely on the ride-on bus systems, including in the up-county. We can expand the bus transit network instead of constructing a highway that'll harm the land, health, and future of the Montgomery County people. Today, I urge you to approve the Planning Board's recommendation to remove the 5-mile M83 northern section from the master plan. The students of Montgomery County care, and we're asking you to choose the smarter and more sustainable path forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Evan Fernando.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Evan Fernando, and I'm a rising junior living in Damascus and a part of the IB program at Watkinsville High School, as well as the president of our EcoMoco chapter. I'm here today to ask you to remove the proposed M83 highway northern section from the master plan of highway and transitways. At school, we talk a lot about climate change, how it impacts our planet, our health, and our future. We learn about the greenhouse effect, sustainability, and the importance of protecting our environment. But beyond the science, I've also learned the effects of climate change and environmental decisions don't impact everyone equally. Communities like my schools often bear the greatest burden. The Montgomery Village area has lower income, and overall, it is a community you may call a disadvantaged community. Marginalized communities are often located in areas more vulnerable to climate impacts. Lower-income communities frequently have inadequate infrastructure to withstand climate-related events, leading to greater damage and displacement. We do not have as many resources when compared to other parts of the county, which is exactly why M83 needs to be removed. Watkins Mill is a Title I school which is located right across the Great Seneca Stream Valley from the path of the proposed M83 highway. But it's not just our school. This plan would also affect homes, families, and neighborhoods, the places people live and raise their children. And then there's the cost, nearly $1 billion. Imagine what that kind of investment could do for our schools, for public transit, or for climate solutions that actually move us forward rather than take us back. Some people may say that people living up county don't use the ride-on buses, but I would like to speak to the contrary. Living in Damascus, I've taken the bus to Watkins Mill numerous times. However, I always have to take 2 buses to get there, which takes up more than an hour. If we had more funds spent towards our transit programs, we would be able to accommodate more people who may not have cars, live with disabilities, are too young to drive, or whatever the case may be, to make the typical hour bus ride shorter, saving time for everyone. Additionally, I have friends at Watkins Mill who walk 30 to 40 minutes every day to school, as they are within a certain radius where school buses aren't provided. Transit has helped most of these friends of mine and has allowed them to speed up their journey to school, even if it is by 10 to 15 minutes. It would also be invaluable to have a bus running in Damascus on the weekends, as they do on weekdays. Yes, the project may only span 5 miles, but that's 5 miles of homes, trees, trails, and ecosystems. 5 miles of natural spaces and community spaces that would be permanently altered or destroyed. Habitats for animals would disappear, and with them, a piece of what makes our community special. Please don't pave over our future. Invest in something better, something that helps all of us thrive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deborah Sariba.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Deborah Saravia, and I'm here as an individual, although I support the comments of the Seneca Creek Watershed Partners, the TAME Coalition, and the Montgomery County Planning Board that the proposed M83 highway should be removed from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. This 5-mile, 4-lane proposed northern section of M83 from Montgomery Village Avenue to Ridge Road is entirely within the Seneca Creek watershed. This is the largest watershed in Montgomery County. It covers approximately 1/3 of the county's area. You recently received a copy of the new TAME Coalition report on the Seneca Creek watershed. It describes the watershed's natural assets and the existing regulations surrounding the water quality in land and likely impacts if M83 were constructed. I urge you to read it. M83 would fragment 2 of the county's largest and most important natural areas, the North Germantown and the Great Seneca Greenways. The county has designated these greenways as biodiversity areas. These are large tracts that contain significant and exceptional, rare, high-quality, scenic, biotic, or abiotic features. The state of Maryland includes these greenways in its habitat connectivity network for forest interior dependent species of birds, or FIDS. And accordingly, the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, in its review of the M83 proposal, specifically advised the Montgomery County Department of Transportation avoid placement of new roads or related construction in the forest interior. 1/3 mile of Seneca Creek tributaries would be permanently piped or relocated through this construction. 3.6 acres of wetlands and buffers would be permanently filled, that is, or destroyed or converted to a lower quality wetland type. M83 would parallel or relocate approximately 1/2 mile of the popular Seneca Greenway Trail. A 500-foot-long bridge would be built over Seneca Creek. Trail users would no longer be able to escape the noise. And we don't know what the cumulative and the indirect impacts are, such as increased stormwater, road salt, drinking water pollution, invasive species, climate change, total impacts of forest loss from M83 plus other large-scale forest loss, like the Watkins Mill Interchange or the proposed Metropolitan Grove. Will the parkland along the M83 right-of-way eventually be rezoned for private development? So this county council has also recognized the problems with the M83 when you adopted a resolution which began the process of removing M83 from the master plan. I ask you to finish your job and approve the planning board's recommendation to remove the M83 northern section from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone on this panel. I'll call up the next panel. I have Tim Goodfellow, Wallace Garthright, Joseph Horgan, Diana Cameron, Robert Nelson. And Mr. Goodfellow, you can begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, council members. I urge you to remove this year the northern section of the proposed Mid-County Highway Extended from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways and include the plan's future adoption resolution, the appropriate amendments to the various master plans in which M83 is located. The county's professional planning staff, the county's planning board, and the county's own Department of Transportation, in a letter dated July 1st, have all recommended that the northern section of M83 be removed from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. M83 is an outmoded, destructive, and harmful highway proposal that fails to address modern-day mobility and travel patterns. In a word, M83 is retrograde. Viable and realistic alternatives to M83 do exist that will improve mobility, increase capacity, and reduce travel delays in the Mid-County corridor by utilizing existing infrastructure and transportation systems. These include expanding the ride-on bus system, implementing BRT to Clarksburg, improving intersections, as well as enhancing existing roadways. The alignment of proposed M83 bisects 5 public parks, Montgomery Village community open space parcels, and the Seneca Creek Greenway Trail. M83 would have a profoundly detrimental impact to these public assets. The alignment of M83 is over 95% forested, contains steep wooded slopes, extensive and valuable floodplain and wetlands, and stream systems, as well as documented high biodiversity areas. I have hiked the entire alignment of M83, and there's no amount of mitigation that can replace or replicate these natural systems and resources. Some of you have hiked portions of the M83 alignment and also have experienced these resources and have seen the harm that M83 would cause to county residents who live adjacent to the alignment. The county's Community Equity Index reveals that higher concentrations of socioeconomic disadvantaged communities are present along the entire length of M83 highway. It's these diverse communities that will be harmed by M83's retention in the master plan and its construction, subjecting them and thousands of others who live in the 500 residential dwellings adjacent to the alignment to increased air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution that follow when forests are replaced with cars and asphalt. M83's functional utility is dubious. M83 will not be a speedway or an expressway from Clarksburg to Montgomery Village. There will be 6 major intersections along its 5-mile length. The county's 2017 Mid-County Corridor Study showed that M83 would provide a reduction in travel time of less than 10 minutes between Route 27 and Montgomery Village, hardly worth M83's extraordinarily high environmental, social, and monetary costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Wallace Garthright.
Thank you. The real question today, this council has voted many times not to build M83. Part of the question now is why not leave it in the plan or why take it out? And another question is why has it stayed in the plan so long? Why have the technical people tried to keep it in? Let me address the latter part first. When I was awarded a mathematics degree, I began 20 years building mathematical models. My more experienced colleagues, when I was the new guy, shocked me with the following advice: never fall in love with your models. I thought, well, that's very silly. What are they talking about? What they were saying is that when you build a good model, you can believe the conclusion so strongly you ignore all the detailed engineering studies, all the cost studies, all the impact studies, but you really love that model. And I'm suggesting that some of the technical staff somewhere in the Department of Transportation fell in love with their models, and that has helped to keep it in. I'm not sure either way, but that's the only way I can think of. And I was a modeler, and I fell prey to the same kind of thing. But here's the question. What's the harm in leaving it in the plan? Okay? Clearly, it's not going to be built. I believe the biggest problem is misleading home buyers, especially future home buyers. Resident testimony that I've heard in previous times have shown that salespeople painted unrealistic pictures of easy commutes. Home buyers don't know about your decisions for the past 32 years that indicate it's not going to be built. You've heard references to them, so I'll skip over those. The thing is, if you remove it from the master plan, it'll be very hard to mislead future home buyers. Home buyers who are going to put themselves in bad commutes. Okay? Let's protect them. Let's take it out of the plan so no one can show, oh, look here, you're going to get this easy commute, so come up here and buy my property. That, I think, is one of the main reasons why we have to get it out of the plan. All the reasons to not build it are very sound. But doing that but keeping it in the plan is hurting future home buyers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Joseph Horkins.
Joseph Horgan, a resident of the Kensington zip code. I drink water and breathe air, and I vote. It's been almost 2 decades since Al Gore informed us of the inconvenient truth that if we want our children and grandchildren to have a livable planet, we need to wean our economy and our society from our addiction to fossil fuels. One way we wean ourselves is by removing all planned fossil fuel infrastructures like highways from our planning. We need planning to make it inconvenient to drive personal vehicles whilst making it safe and convenient to take mass transit. If you care about a livable planet, you must permanently remove the proposed M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, whilst investing in bus rapid transit and dedicated lanes on Maryland's 355 in Clarksburg, and fostering greater stewardship of our forests and streams. We've known for quite some time now that new or expanded highways induce traffic demand. In other words, if you build it, they will be filled. Rather than inducing demand, our county and its leaders need to reduce demand by first removing M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, and then by dedicating highway and roadway lanes for mass transit and bicycles only. Further, because of our need to mitigate the climate disaster's worst effects, our county's planning needs to stop enabling the destruction of our clean drinking water supplies and irreplaceable forests, also known as carbon sinks, by allowing projects like the proposed M83 highway to remain in the master plan. Our future cannot be more pavement for new roads and must use our existing road space to move more people efficiently and sustainably. So I ask you to take action for our climate and community and support the people-centric transportation shift toward mass transit and away from destructive highways. This issue is important, and I vote on issues that are important to me because I want my granddaughters to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Your job is simple. Support transit alternatives and eliminate M83 from all master plans, including the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Diane Cameron.
Good afternoon. I'm testifying today on behalf of Transit Alternatives to Mid-County Highway Extended, TAME Coalition. We ask you to remove proposed M83 highway from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways as recommended by the Planning Board. Removing M83 from the Master Plan is saving our forest parks and enabling transit alternatives to thrive in the up-county. In contrast, keeping M83 in the master plan is the same as protecting a fossil fuel project, enabling it to be built in the future, which would damage our communities. It would be a mistake to believe that M83 is dead so we can keep it in the master plan. Many forests and streams here in Montgomery County were wrecked by highway projects widely seen as dead until they were built. We are for transit, and we are for transportation choice. Traffic congestion is a real problem, and action to alleviate it is needed. M83 would make congestion worse, not better. That's why we urgently need to invest in transit for the up-county. The Germantown, Lake Forest, and Shady Grove transit hubs are hotspots for our ride-on bus system. Thank you, our county council members, for making ride-on buses fare-free for all. And my husband Joseph and I rode on ride-on to get here today, and it was Route 40 from Wheaton to Rockville, and those buses run very frequently, and that's exactly the kind of bus service we also need countywide and in the up-county. We support Ride-On Reimagined for that reason, because it's a new plan has just come out that gives us a map forward for improving our ride-on bus system. We also support MARC train expansion. Often we hear exciting plans for up-county transit, but then we learn that those plans, like for bus rapid transit on 355 North, are stretch goals that are extended really far into the future. That's disappointing to us, and we don't want delay in our priority transit projects. We want them fully funded. Keeping M83 in the master plan contributes to the delay and to the distraction away from transit. There's another group you'll be hearing from today, the Highway Lobby, and they are construction firms that profit from highway contracts. In contrast, our public investment in transit and our need for public forests is our stake in your decision about M83, and so that's a much larger stake that we, the public, have in this decision. In conclusion, we ask you to remove the proposed M83 highway from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Robert Nelson.
I'm Robert Nelson, homeowner in Goshen and past chair of the Up-County Citizens Advisory Board. I've been a resident for Montgomery County for 43 years, and until I moved up-county in 2005, I was always having respect for the Montgomery Planning Board. But since then, I've seen unbridled development without the required prerequisite of infrastructure being in place. 40,000 people now live in Clarksburg, and even the nearby Montgomery Village Golf Course is now being turned into nearly 500 housing units. On February 13th, the Montgomery Planning Board recommended another up-county study, which we don't need. You know, on May 30th, Governor Wes Moore said, "Gone are the days when we are the party of multi-year studies on things we already know. We must be a party of action." Well, from previous studies dating back 13 years and looking at numerous alternatives, the master plan route for Mid-County Highway Extended is best. We know that. It's the fastest route, north and south, and a bus on the M83 would take less time from Clarksburg to Shady Grove Metro than any other option that has been proposed. And the Montgomery Planning Board said indeterminate negative impacts on accessibility to community and public spaces, access to transportation options, and community connectivity would be the result of removing M83. Well, they don't seem to understand there are already significant negative impacts to our community, with high traffic volumes overflowing onto rural roads never designed to accommodate this amount of traffic. Do you know that Montgomery County already has 5,200 miles of roadways? Adding 5.6 miles of roadways is 0.4% increase. Now that has no impact on the climate, just for that little amount of roadway to be added to what we already have. And so we know that. And from my experience in Goshen, 25 acres of wetlands, this was ICC mitigation, have been created only 3 blocks from my home at a current cost of about $135,000 per acre. So lost wetlands can be recreated. We know that. And recent experience in Howard County, building an equivalent number of miles of roadway, cost less than $200 million, not the exorbitant billion-dollar numbers that are promoted by the opposition. Similar to the Mid-County Highway Extended project, there are 7 extended roads in Montgomery County that have been or are being planned to be extended at a combined cost of $310 million. Tell me, why is it that Observation Drive extended would cut through a dense forest and scenic stream valley is already included in the capital improvement program? It's inequity for Montgomery County to support 7 extended roads and single out just one, Mid-County Highway Extended, for removal. I urge you to keep M83 in the master plan and include it in the capital improvement program budget. Up County desperately needs M83 to be connected to the Snowden Farm Parkway. It's our #1 transportation priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to this panel for testifying today. Next, we have Jake Goodman, Mike Conroy, Dial Kaju, Shanika Whitehurst, and Marion Eddy. Okay. Mr. Goodman, you can start when you're ready.
What do I press again?
Nope, you're good. You got it on. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, council members. When it comes to traffic management and improving commutes, the just one more lane will fix it, bro, or the just one more highway will fix it, bro, attitude or concept is inherently flawed. Now more than ever, we need to be prioritizing public transportation improvements, more frequent bus service. It is a shame that there are buses that run every 35 to 45 minutes when they should be running every 15, or at least below 30. We should be building more bus rapid transit and light rail lines. Overbuilding more highways. The M83 Mid-County Highway Extended is an unnecessary evil to local environmental ecosystems that exist in and around the Seneca Creek watershed and the Rock Creek watershed at the small part where it intersects with the ICC. A lot of people often forget about that, that there will be a small eastern extension planned. And that ICC actually, that highway only benefits a few, doesn't relieve beltway congestion, and has its own environmental horror stories. M83 may not be an expressway or a tolled turnpike like the I-83, but it can cause similar environmental harm. In fact, seeing the fact that there are other extensions planned for numerous highways, I'd argue to cut all these extended highways and just improve the transit service and have more multimodal transit share in the up-county. These highways cause extensive harm to wildlife and plant life throughout the area. If realized in its full potential, you already have 355, 27, and 270. Why do you need the M83? I want all of you to think about that and think about your answer very carefully. You'll eventually come to the realization that it's really not that necessary after all. If built in full capacity, it would be a highway that would be very hostile to pedestrians, public transit users. Multiple reports indicate that pedestrian-involved accident fatalities have been on the rise in Montgomery County recently. We need to do better about this. There are already too many highways like this in the county already. I'd argue that the funding for future highway construction should be diverted to making highways like Great Seneca Highway, for example, more hospitable to pedestrians. Actually build the Corridor City Transitway or the Great Seneca Transit Network into actual BRT. Users need to catch the bus along these highways, and it's a hostile environment. I'd argue funding for highways such as this should be used for more bus lanes. We can have more frequent buses.
And the Mid-County and the Up-County deserve better when it comes to access to public transportation and walkable space. Numerous individuals with disabilities or people that can't drive or don't want to drive feel very disadvantaged by this, you know? Please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Mike Conroy.
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, Vice President Jawando, and County Council members. My name is Mike Conroy. I'm the Executive Vice President of Montgomery Village Foundation, and today I'm representing the MVF Board of Directors and the residents of Montgomery Village. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding a technical update to the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, and specifically the recommendation to retain or remove M83 from this plan. During the Planning Board's public hearings, MVF presented testimony with a request for removal of M83 from the MPA HOT, and I wish to reiterate those reasons today that we continue to believe this is the correct path forward. As previously noted, MVF has long been opposed to the construction of M83, previously submitted its resolution in opposition of building M83 highway dated January 26, 2023, which captures our position. M83 sits at the doorstep of our diverse 60-year-old community, which continues to grow and become a first and permanent home for families of varied socioeconomic backgrounds. If ever built, M83 would split Montgomery Village neighborhoods, displacing residents and businesses, encroach on residential and school property lines, destroy important wildlife habitats and ecosystems, and further exacerbate vehicular and pedestrian safety issues at vital entry points to Montgomery Village. M83 has already been removed from the National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board's Visualized 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan and contradicts with other county policies and quality of life initiatives. And current and previous county execs and councils have agreed not to fund M83 and have passed a resolution to not consider the road when evaluating future development. Thank you for that. In addition, maintaining the future potential to build M83 does not solve a traffic problem. It simply moves it to the portion of Mid-County Highway that already exists in Montgomery Village, and it complicates the ability to access our community and homes. Further, State Highway Administration is currently proposing pedestrian-friendly intersection improvements at Montgomery Village Avenue and Mid-County Highway, and I question how the addition of a multi-lane major throughway at that same intersection works in concert to improve pedestrian safety, especially when focusing on county and state zero-death initiatives. Montgomery Village communities that border the proposed route of M83 fall inside moderately and highly disadvantaged equity-focused areas. And these same areas are also identified for disparities in healthcare and other critical health and other services. By its own charge, the Planning Board is committed to developing plans that benefit all community members and reduce or eliminate inequity, and maintaining the potential for another large roadway, which would pollute these communities in many ways, works against that charge and erects a physical barrier that isolates a majority-minority community. And I commend the Planning Board for recognizing this and remaining true to their charge with their recommendation. In summary, Montgomery Village Foundation supports the Planning Board's recommendation for the removal of the northern portion of M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, as well as supports other smart transportation changes and growth that provide increased service to Up-County residents. And we look forward to working with the county toward this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dial Kaju.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Dial Kaju. This M83 highway thing is both personal and one that is dear to my heart. I have proudly owned a home in Montgomery Village for the past 21 years. I've seen the M83 alignment on county documents, and I'm here to support its removal from the master plan because it harms both our environment and our communities and our people. Growing up, I have witnessed a total degradation of our fragile environment and displacement of communities, the loss of cultural heritage, and the health challenges that persist across generations. And honestly, this M83 alignment feels like a reminder of those experiences, rooted in man-made ideologies that evolve into policies, and honestly, policies that rule and ultimately harm communities. We have an opportunity to plan and design communities before us that would avoid environmental destruction and physical displacement. And to me, M83 doesn't provide solutions, it takes away. Montgomery Village, where I currently live, is a diverse community The population composition there includes of hardworking people. Many live in smaller homes with little or no yard space. Our community thrives on connection and creativity, not highways. Rather than asphalt, the M83 land tracks should be preserved as natural space with innovative transit solution that meets the need of the 21st century. I've seen firsthand how climate change displaces communities. The islands, some of the islands that I grew up on, have been washed away by rising tides and saltwater floods. Climate change is real. M83 is real. M83 is another man-made destructive force that must be avoided. Thankfully, this afternoon we can make smart choices. Remove M83 northern section from the master plan of highways and transitways. Technical update as recommended by the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Shanika Whitehurst. Can you press your button in front of you, Ms. Whitehurst? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak to the council members. My name is Shanika Whitehurst. I am both a resident of the city of Gaithersburg and an environmental sustainability professional. I currently serve as the president for the Action Committee for Transit, and we strongly urge and support the Planning Board's decision of the removal of the northern section of M83 from the county's master plan. M83 is an outdated proposal that conflicts with the county's climate goals, equity principles, and smart growth strategies, which are peppered through Thrive Montgomery 2050, the Vision Zero plan, and also climate resilience goals in general. The county must prioritize sustainable, high-capacity transit solutions. The expansion of bus rapid transit, improved MARC service, integrated pedestrian and cycle infrastructure. These are a couple of alternatives, just to name a few. These investments will provide greater mobility for more people, reduce traffic congestion more effectively than highway constructions, and also cut emissions, as has been spoken to many a times this afternoon. Moreover, investment in transit addresses long-standing transportation inequities. Communities along the proposed M83 corridor, many of which have been historically underserved, deserve affordable, accessible, and reliable transit, not a project that promotes further automobile dependency, increases air pollution, and displaces residents. Removing M83 from the master plan is not simply about a road project. It's a chance, really an opportunity for forward-thinking decision-making that aligns with the county's commitment. Again, I must reiterate, your commitment to racial equity, your commitment that you've laid out in the Vision Zero plan, and your commitment that you've laid out as a leader within the state of Maryland of your climate resilience. I thank you for allowing me to speak on the Action Committee for Transit's behalf today, and we urge you to remove the Highway M83 proposal from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion Eddy.
My name is Marion Eddy, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Sierra Club. I urge you to please remove the proposed M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways as recommended by the Planning Board. If the county is sincere in upholding its previous climate and transportation policies, you cannot justify keeping this in your master plan. Montgomery County's 2021 Climate Action Plan recommends that we expand public transit, limit major road construction, and retain and increase our tree canopy. The county's 2024 Draft Hazard Mitigation Plan says, quote, "We need to prioritize development which de-emphasizes a car-centric lifestyle." We are gradually moving toward this. Young people don't drive nearly as much as their parents did. The proposed M83 is a relic of our car-addicted past and will perpetuate our dependence on fossil fuels. Instead, we need to make major investments in rapid bus and rail transit along the Route 355 and 270 corridors. We should extend the Red Line Metro Rail to Germantown, expand service on the Mark Brunswick line, bring back more bus stops for the people in Clarksburg, where some were closed down, create more places where people can park and ride, and increase affordable housing in areas that are served by the mass rapid transit. The proposed M83 highway would destroy or degrade forests, streams, and wetlands in Germantown, in Gaithersburg, and Montgomery Village. It will fragment wildlife habitat. It will damage 5 popular public parks and impact 100 acres of biodiverse interior forest, which is some of the most valuable forests we have in Maryland. This highway would bisect 3 up-county communities which have diverse lower-income populations who depend a lot on public transport. They will suffer disproportionately from the noise of M83 construction and the air pollution from diesel and gasoline exhaust. They will suffer, too, from the loss of tree cover we so badly need in the time of climate change and the loss of parks and green space they need for space and walks in nature. The damage to stream valleys and riparian areas will likely be even greater than estimated, since the state of Maryland has insane mitigation policies which allow companies to quote-unquote mitigate the damage done in one watershed by tearing apart another stream valley somewhere else. The other stream valley may not need such an intervention, but in this way, any damage done by a new highway is greatly compounded. For all these reasons, we ask you to permanently remove M83 from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for testifying on this panel. I'll call up the next panel. It's Ginny Barnes, John Parrish, Karen Metchis, Najwa Hassan, and Crystal Bivens. Okay, and Ginny Barnes, you can start when you're ready.
For the record, my name is Ginny Barnes, and I'm speaking on behalf of Conservation Montgomery. M83 is a relic of another era, before we knew the real value of forests vital to both climate and human health. Conservation Montgomery has long supported removal of this 5-mile stretch of proposed highway. Its importance to our environment far outweighs the use for which it was intended. We can't afford to lose what it will take. The proposed extension will cause irreparable damage to 2 of our parks, Great Seneca Stream Valley Park and North Germantown Greenway Stream Valley Park, would lose vital forests, wetlands, and further fragmentation of needed habitat. The county does not own a reserved right-of-way across these 2 parks. They do own some reserved right-of-way at the west border of Great Seneca Park and elsewhere, adjacent to some neighborhoods, but it is both piecemeal and incomplete. Several other parks are jeopardized, including South Valley Park, Bloem Park, and Wildcat Branch Stream Valley Park. 6 streams would be crossed, listed from north to south: Wildcat Branch, Dayspring Creek, Brander Mill Tributary, Great Seneca Creek, Whetstone Run, and Watkins Run. Long bridge construction would be required over the floodplains of Great Seneca Creek and Brander Mill tributaries. All these streams contribute to the public water supply intake downstream at the WSSC water filtration plant that provides drinking water to 3 jurisdictions and millions of citizens. A portion of the agricultural reserve will be impacted. Does the county have a mitigation plan for all that will be lost? Question mark.
The public has learned the hard way that obtaining mitigation can take years. When the county took part in North Chevy Chase Park for a new road, it was a battle to obtain the most basic local mitigation. Given our growing knowledge, particularly regarding the value of forests and trees to mitigating CO2 emissions and climate warming, the sum total of losses far outweigh any perceived benefit. We've lost too much forest already. Between 2008 and 2016, development in Montgomery County cleared over 1,300 acres of forest and replanted only 768 acres, a net loss of 615 forest acres. Preserving forests should be the top priority in reversing climate degradation to our region. We know forest cover is the best form of protection in maintaining water quality for our streams and wetlands. And finally, in county park acquisition programs such as Legacy Open Space, on which I serve in the advisory committee, we've made a firm goal of adding and creating contiguous linked parkland. Why now would we endeavor to fragment some of our best? This highway proposal is a boondoggle that should have been removed from consideration decades ago. We need what it would cost in environmental degradation, much more than we need another highway. Thank you.
Thank you. John Parrish.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Parrish, can you turn on your microphone? Thank you very much. There you go.
Good afternoon. I'm John Parrish, a botanist and ecologist and lifelong resident of Montgomery County. Back in 2003, I was hired by the Church of the Savior to assess impacts to the natural environment by M83 in the vicinity of the Dayspring Silent Retreat Center, including the North Germantown Greenway and Great Seneca Parks. My findings are compiled in this 50-page report. I'd like to share a few of my findings with you so you may appreciate the ecological values of the parklands in this area and better understand what would be lost if M83 were built. The North Germantown Greenway and Great Seneca Parks along Dayspring Creek and the Brander Mill tributary that M83 would traverse harbor significant forest interior habitats containing bedrock outcrops, wetlands, and glades. These two park areas are designated as biodiversity areas by Montgomery Parks due to scenic values, unusual habitats, and the presence of uncommon and rare species. I documented 10 species of amphibians here, including 7 frogs and 3 salamanders. 9 of these depend on wetlands for breeding, including wetlands that would be destroyed by M83. I documented 21 species of forest-dwelling birds. 9 of these are neotropical migratory songbirds that depend on large, unbroken forests to maintain viable populations. 9 of the 21 forest-dwelling birds are listed by Montgomery Parks as bird species of greatest conservation need. I also found 4 state rare plant species. This spring I was fortunate to verify that 3 of the 4 species are present, including American chestnuts, some of which bear delicious nuts. I documented 240 species of native plants here, including 15 ferns, 5 orchids, and 70 species of trees and shrubs. Potential negative impacts to all these plants and animals are fully described in this report. These plants and animals and the habitats that support them are in great jeopardy if M83 is built. In conclusion, M83 would also invade our agricultural reserve in the Wildcat Branch watershed. Wildcat Branch is one of the highest quality streams left in our county and is designated by the state of Maryland as a Class 3 natural trout waters. All of these significant habitats, native biodiversity, water resources, and the agricultural reserve are entrusted to you to take care of for future generations. Once they're destroyed, they're gone forever. There's so much more I could say about this, and I don't have time to share. I hope you will read my written testimony that I submitted to you. Please delete M83 from our master plans to safeguard our natural and agricultural heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Karen Metchis.
Good afternoon. Today I represent the Montgomery County Climate Coalition. And yes, I am speaking with a sense of distress and urgency. We urge you to approve the Planning Board's recommendation to remove the M83 northern section from the master plans of highways and transit. I'm also standing up for our children and future generations who will inherit the results of our actions. Should M83 be built, it would threaten 100 acres of high-quality public forest, it would remove and degrade wetlands and natural floodplains, and would require 5 bridge crossings over streams. These precious resources must be preserved for the sake of our climate. You know what forests mean. They cool the planet, yet M83 would remove part of the forest that keeps people cool in Germantown, Gaithersburg, and Montgomery Village, replacing it with pavement. And I refer you to the map attached to my written testimony to see the results of the 2022 Urban Heat Island Mapping Study. You can see the difference between the more urbanized area and the up-county. Forests also clean and retain water in the soils that feed the natural biome, which is increasingly under stress, and they hold carbon that will otherwise be released into the atmosphere, causing even more climate change. This morning, I received a Maryland Matters newsletter reporting that last week alone, 8 people died of heat stroke, compared to 1 just the prior week before. And 472 people went to the emergency room due to record heat. And we are witnessing the tragedy in the Texas Hill Country near Austin due to catastrophic flooding, and we are not immune to it ourselves. You know, I retired from the U.S. EPA in summer 2019, and I have been involved in climate change issues since 2006, and my husband even before that. I have read many scientific reports and assessments about the effects of climate change on our environment. Every year, it becomes ever more clear that the observed impacts are worse than prior predictions. How many scientific studies do we need to convince policymakers of the dire state of the climate and our natural system? How many ways do we need to say this? The economy, indeed human well-being, depend on the environment. Without a healthy environment, we have a precarious economy and fragile communities. We are witnessing real-time in this country the corruption of truth and the betrayal of public interest. But we can hold Montgomery County to a higher standard. We don't need to give in to short-term thinking. We can leave a legacy for future generations. If we don't do what we can to preserve what little natural environment is left on this planet, there will be certainly no hope. It is a devil's bargain to insist this highway is needed for economic development or for temporary relief of congestion that would return over the long run. If we don't protect our dwindling natural resources, who will? If we don't do it now, when? Please approve removal of the northern section of M83 for the Master Plan of Highways and Transit as recommended by the Planning Board. Your legacy, our legacy, depends on taking actions like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Najwa Hassan.
Good afternoon. My name is Najwa Hassan. I live in Germantown next to the road called M83. I also voted as citizen for the first time in November 2024, and I'm very happy. I don't want the tree to be cut down and the birds and animals to be killed for a big highway to be built. We need more buses to take us to work and shop to buy food and clothes. We need trees and animals more than we need another road. If we have more buses, we don't have to damage Earth with pollutions. When one person riding a car, that's not good. People have to wait, and sometimes the buses don't come. So we need more buses to come more often. I'm not building for this M83, and it should be removed from every building. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Crystal Bivens, and you have 4 minutes. I know you're speaking as an individual and then also as a representative for the Upcounty Citizens Advisory Board.
I'll start with UCAP for right now. So good afternoon, council members. I'm Crystal Bivens, chair of the Upcounty Citizens Advisory Board, and I'm speaking on the letter that they wrote, which has been a long time opposition of moving M83 before the recommended study by the planning board, and for these reasons. With continuing development in the Upcounty, the county should be preserving all potential transportation assets, including the right-of-way of M83. Clarksburg-Rockville travel corridor is a chronic problem, and alternative routes are needed for mid and down county jobs and higher education institutions. The absence of M83 traffic from Clarksburg communities, they're traveling on rural roads and neighborhood roads, which is undermining the safety of the county's goals with traffic and accidents. I-270 in its current configuration is already congested and clearly not sufficient to meet the area's long-term travel needs. The bus rapid transit service is not a viable alternative at M83 at present. It starts at Montgomery College and goes south, leaving the communities that M83 would serve north of that without any access to BRT. It's kind of hard to go any further than that. There's other things, and hopefully you'll read that as it was sent to the county council.
Right, and Ms. Bivens, take your time. I don't know why the sound is going off.
Oh.
Your time.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was trying to set 1 minute for UCAB and then some minutes for myself. So just a couple other items from UCAB is that we believe that the planning board has recommended a study, and we believe that it should be conducted before abandoning the M83 right away. We feel that there's a disconnect between the county's concern about the environmental impacts of building M83, but not the growing traffic congestion and idle vehicle emissions and the runoff on overtaxed rural roads. And the planning board believes that M83 would negatively impact the environment, but they also are willing to make adjustments for the alignment of Observation Drive. Removing M83 without alternatives and without plans from the county on what the right-of-way will be used for is concerning to many up-county residents. And with that, I conclude the points for UCAB. I had a whole testimony set up for myself, and I've been listening to everybody. And so this is a tough crowd. Adversity has never kept me down, so I'm going to try to hit the points that I wanted to. I'm a lifelong resident. Lived in Montgomery County my entire life, 50% up county, 50% in down county. Up county and down county are two very different areas, and they require many different solutions. And what may have worked for the county in down county is not necessarily what works well for the up county. The disconnect that we're seeing between the county is that we're allowing mass development according to a plan, and it's not in line with the planned infrastructure that was estimated to be required to handle the exponential growth of the environment. As you all may be aware, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, carbon emissions due to building account for 36% of the total U.S. emissions, while carbon emissions from transportation account for 28%. Yet ecologists, in their letters to you, write about the forest that will be destroyed by building M83, but say very little about the acres upon hundreds of acres of forest land and critters that have been destroyed to build over 60,000 units in Up County, including Montgomery Village and Clarksburg. The disconnect is that the county has made the disconnect. Sorry, the disconnect is that the county. I was starting to do a song. The disconnect is that the county has made no effort to study the repercussions of the decision to withhold the building of the planned M83 road in relation to the traffic noise, the pollution, and safety issues that are a direct result of new development. Community roads and bridges are now infiltrated with impressed traffic that the county already knows is damaging to residents' health. Please reference the vehicular noise reduction bill that was passed by the council. Why is this happening? Why is the county telling us residents that they know what model is best for us? Which must mean that they are unequivocally certain, beyond a reasonable doubt, that by moving M83 from the plan and replacing it with BRT, which only connects South Germantown to Down County public transit, that this plan will inevitably increase ridership from communities north that have no direct access to BRT without driving on congested roads first, and it will further reduce the carbon emissions currently dispelled with the concentrated congestion that has been forced onto our community roads. The disconnect is that county is putting the cart before the horse, and we all know that that just does not work. Now is not the time to remove M83 before we know the plan to alleviate the congestions that have been put on our community roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bivens, and apologies for the interruptions. Thank you to everyone on the panel. We will go to our next panel, and we have Carrie Kazicki, Brian Higgins, Edgar Gonzalez, Janet Rosenbaum, and Lucella Castellano.
Castellanes. Right, Ms. Kaziski, you can start when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Kasicki, and I'm the Montgomery County Advocacy Manager for the Coalition for Smarter Growth. We advocate for building walkable, inclusive, and transit-oriented communities as the most sustainable and equitable way for our region to grow. So we urge you to adopt the recommendations of the Planning Board and remove the unbuilt northern portion of M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. The ways of thinking that informed plans for M83 decades ago are out of step with what we know today about best practices to address transportation needs and about the vital connections between environmental health, climate resilience, and human health. First, M83 is based on obsolete travel and land use assumptions. In my written testimony, I've cited State Highway Administration data that shows that contrary to assumptions, or as a sociology major, I learned it's important to study things. It's sometimes different than what you expect from your lived experience. Traffic volumes on most of the major north-south roads in the M83 corridor have actually declined, and were declining even before the pandemic. SHA had forecast 34 to 48% growth in traffic volumes on Maryland 355 by 2030, but traffic volumes actually peaked in 2017. And on other roads in the area, there have not been increases in traffic volumes according to the SHA data set. Second, M83 would generate higher volumes of traffic up county without providing lasting traffic relief. As you've already heard, too many communities seeking relief from traffic have been sold the false promise that a new or expanded road will fix things, but we know from study after study documenting the phenomenon of induced demand that the temporary relief from traffic that is seemingly offered by new road capacity is quickly eaten up as more people decide to take more car trips because it is more convenient to drive. We saw this example in our own region in the 1990s after the state of Maryland spent $200 million to expand I-270 from 8 to 12 lanes, only to see traffic gridlock return in just 8 years. $200 million is a lot of money for only 8 years of traffic relief. Third, M83 would cause significant environmental damage to vital watersheds, stream valleys, and the climate. It is unlikely it would offer traffic relief. It is very likely, based on the county's own modeling from 2017, that it would increase vehicle miles traveled and therefore increase carbon emissions, and would cause damage to sensitive ecosystems that it cuts through, including watersheds that feed into our drinking water supply. The connections between transportation and environmental health were perhaps not fully appreciated by decision makers decades ago when M83 was originally planned, but now we know better. As climate change and extreme heat intensify, we cannot take the health of our environment and ecosystems for granted. As someone who just turned 26 years old, I'm very scared by what I see happening around me, and I take this issue extremely seriously. Finally, it has long been a problem that alternate transportation solutions for up-county are promised without being delivered. Luckily, we are now seeing real progress on sustainable, effective solutions like bus rapid transit that is now decisively moving forward. And so we hope to see up-county transportation challenges addressed with high-capacity transit connections, safer and more comfortable options for walking and biking. It's something we have strongly advocated for, and it is now underway. So it is time to remove this outdated and ineffective plan and move forward with plans that will actually offer sustainable and effective transportation options up-county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Higgins?
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Higgins. I am speaking today as an individual. I live on the Dayspring Farm, and I am a salaried employee there as well. As a caretaker, I tend to the land in the various capacities of a person who nurtures the forests and fields I was hired to care for. I love the work that I do. I'm here today to express my grievances over the proposed M83 highway. If M83 were built, it would destroy old-growth forest along the border of the property, create an increase in noise, release compounds that trigger asthma, and would contribute to the urban heat islands that already exist within the county. As a man of faith, very rarely are moral and ethical considerations given to such issues as the building of a highway. It appears the bottom line is always in the front of the decisions for more development. Can we dare to think of the ethical consequences of constant building and expanding, digging and laying asphalt, and paving over forest areas to perceive the bigger picture? Of the 5 tipping points scientists monitor in terms of the progression of climate change, it has been determined that 2 are now irreversible, and the other 3 are now moving more rapidly than predicted. The Amazon rainforest is no longer a carbon sink. Sea levels are irreversibly rising. The permafrost in the north is melting. The ocean currents are dangerously reversing course, and the North and South poles are disappearing. The ethics for me are clear. Are we thinking about the future of our planet? Are we including the future well-being of our children and grandchildren in our development designs? Can we at least let go of what is non-essential, which is the building of this proposed M83 highway? Can we allow what precious fragments of forests and fields, creeks and aquifers still left in Montgomery County have an opportunity to exist? Can you, as leaders in our community, rest in the integrity that the right decisions for a healthy and viable planet were made, and those whom we love will express their gratitude and thanks for the good decisions and choices you make now? Thank you for your time and consideration. I ask that you remove M83 Highway from the document before you, the Master Plan of Highways and Trailways. Thank you.
Thank you. Edgar Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Edgar Gonzalez. My testimony is in opposition to the elimination of M83 and recommendation for a rigorous and independent technical study of the consequences of such elimination. I'm a civil engineer with more than 40 years of experience in transportation planning, transportation engineering, and public policy in the county. I am a former planner, chief engineer, and deputy director in the county DOT. For about 10 years, MCDOT conducted detailed studies for M83, including an environmental impact statement. 11 alternatives, including transit options, were included in the analysis. Millions of public dollars were spent in those efforts. As a result of the process, the master plan alignment was selected as the best alternative. Impacts on parks, streams, noise-sensitive areas, and wetlands were reduced, and mitigation measures were developed. The current process has missed outreach efforts to areas of the county that would be negatively impacted if the road is not built. Most residents along Brink Road, Wyman Road, Goshen Road, Montgomery Village East, and the city of Gettysburg are unaware of the current proposal and its effect on them. A much wider and direct outreach to those communities is needed. M83 is not just a road. It is a multimodal facility that will serve pedestrians, bicyclists, trucks, and buses in the safest manner. Previous planning boards, executives, and county councils approved the M83. It wasn't an invention of DOT. Much of the road exists today, and over 65% of the additional right-of-way needed is already in public ownership. Elimination of the master plan alignment could result in the loss of that dedicated right-of-way. The road best supports the affordable housing goals of the county. The proposed elimination of the road is a betrayal to the thousands of residents in Clarksburg that bought their homes relying in the future existence of M83 from Clarksburg to the intercounty connector and to direct access to the Metro Rail station at Shady Grove. The recommendation of the board lacks rigorous technical analysis. It is a travesty of the planning process to call for the elimination of the existing planned road and then call for the study of the effects of that elimination. You do studies and then you do conclusions, not the other way around. You don't condemn someone and then you take him to trial. We urge you to hire an independent consultant to conduct a detailed study of the consequences of eliminating this road. It should include the review of the previous extensive MCDOT technical studies, and should include the involvement
Mr. Gonzalez,
of
your time is
professionals in the field.
Thank you. Thank you. Janet Rosenbaum?
Good afternoon, Montgomery County Council. I'm Jeanette Rosenbaum. I'm a resident of Montgomery Village, and I'm a birder. 100 million Americans are birders. Our hobby enriches our lives and our communities. Birding generates $279 billion in annual economic output, including $90 billion in labor income related to 1.4 million jobs. Another $7 billion is tax revenue for counties. Based on a report from the Maryland Ornithological Society about how much of that economic activity is happening in our state, I estimate that birding contributes at least $45 million to our county's economy every year. Aside from generating all that financial gain, birds also make us feel wealthier. That's a real fact. Researchers find that a 10% increase in the number of bird species that you encounter lifts your life satisfaction comparably to a 10% increase in your net household income. So, isn't it wonderful that the Greenway in our community helps us encounter more birds? Just a few weeks ago, I hiked in that Greenway, which also happens to be the M83 highway alignment, and I found 28 species of birds. 27 species of birds are completely dependent on eastern forests like our Greenway. 18 of those species are declining. The newest State of the Birds report found that this decline was especially pronounced along the Atlantic coast. That's us. We are the ones who need to protect the habitat that these birds rely on. Recall what the alternative is. Fewer kinds of birds in our daily lives. Decrease in our life satisfaction equivalent to losing 10% of our household income. Does anyone here want to sign up for a 10% pay cut right now? No? Then we also should not be signing up for a loss of bird diversity caused by the destruction of habitat. We should be saying no to the project that would cause that destruction. Please approve the Planning Board's recommendation to remove the proposed 5-mile M83 northern section from the master plan. In return, we'll continue to enjoy the tax revenue from birding activity in our Greenway. Maybe we can spend it on improvements for public transit. Thank you for your work to make life better for people in the Up-County and throughout our MoCo community. I submitted more information along with links to sources as written testimony. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Ms. Castiglione?
Good afternoon. My name is Lucila Castiglione. I live on Yellow Leaf Way, Germantown. I come before you today not just as a resident, as an educator, but as a mother, a neighbor, and someone who cares deeply about this community. The proposed M83 highway would run through the forest that backs our home. It is the same forest where my family walks nearly every day. It is where, surrounded by trees, I mourn the loss of loved ones. It is where a few years later I walk the same path, hand in hand with my toddler, expecting now our second son. That forest is where we grieved, grown, and healed. It is not just undeveloped land, it is part of our story. But it's not only my story. I work with families at Gaithersburg Middle School, many of whom live in the very neighborhoods this project would affect, Germantown, Montgomery Village, and Gaithersburg. I see the real transportation crisis every day. Families miss work, school, and doctor's appointments because it can take an hour or more to go 4 or 5 miles by bus. This is due to a lack of frequency and limited bus routes, not because we need another highway. The M83 would destroy one of the last green corridors we have and mostly benefit those who already have access to reliable transportations, those who can afford to drive. Meanwhile, families who depend on public transit are left with delays, detours, and disconnection. This is not progress. It is an investment in inequality. We have a chance to make a better choice, one that reflects our values as a county. Instead of building a highway that divides communities and paves over our natural spaces, we should expand and improve our public transit system. We need more frequent, accessible bus routes that actually serve the people who need them most. I was on a walk in Seneca Creek Park that I first saw a group of students learning about the M83 project, and it hit me. If we don't speak up, we risk losing not just a forest, but a future rooted in equity, and sustainability. That moment is why I'm here. I urge you, please eliminate the proposed Mid-County Highway Extended Northern Section from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, as recommended by the Montgomery County Planning Board. Let's invest in smarter, greener transportation solutions. Let's build a county that serves everyone, especially those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who testified on this panel. I'll call up the next panel. We have Deanne Melander, Rajat Shir Charan, Orlando Guevara, Bobby Sonora. Mr. Melander?
Good afternoon. My name is Dean Melander. I live in Kent Middle neighborhood. I spent 30 years as a planner and zoning specialist with park and planning and another 20 years as a zoning administrator with the city of Rockville. The council's decision to change the roadway designations doesn't affect how the roads operate. Primary and secondary streets will now just be streets without regard to the way they were originally intended to serve. What used to be arterials and business district streets seem to fall somewhere between connectors and highways. Highways now seem to include what were once major highways and freeways. Parkways are lumped into this category, and while there are 3 parkways controlled by park and planning are excluded, other thoroughfares are also called parkways. What constitutes a parkway? Does it include Bolingbrook Parkway, a divided residential street in North Bethesda, Evans Parkway in Silver Spring, a short, narrow residential street? There doesn't seem to be an apparent distinction among them or a consistent application of standards applicable to them. At the public meeting I attended in Camp Mill last month, it was obvious that the community perceived that the Master Plan of Highways update and the University Boulevard Plan were one and the same. You need to clarify that the Master Plan of Highways provides the new design standards. The Community Master Plan recommends how these designs will be utilized to achieve the plan's goals. Further, a more in-depth explanation of the Vision Zero plan must be presented to the public. Residents are not adequately informed that the intent of Vision Zero is to eliminate pedestrian traffic fatalities by eliminating some free right turn lanes, eliminating right turns on red, radically reducing speed limits, thereby extending travel times, revised timing of traffic lights, forcing cars to stop at every single red light. Residents are already of the opinion that Vision Zero is an excuse to lower the speed limits on all county roads to 25 miles an hour. Almost all of this seems to place the onus on the driver. Pedestrians must also observe the laws. A pedestrian in a crosswalk has the right of way. However, walkers and bikers often ignore the lights at signalized intersections. When the traffic signal is green, pedestrians still try to cross against traffic while cars are expected to have clearance to proceed. Does the county intend to turn most of the major intersections back into a barn stance, where all traffic is stopped at the intersection while pedestrians cross in all directions? Protection of pedestrians can be accomplished by other means, such as curb barriers to hinder jaywalking, pedestrian bridges like the ones on George Avenue at Montgomery Hills. I'm sorry. I will.
You can submit your written testimony.
Okay,
And we'll
I'm sorry.
read it.
It'll take another minute or two.
Yep.
The county is long.
No, your time is up. You can submit written testimony. Thank you very much.
I will submit the rest of this to the clerk, but we need to just pay attention to how the plans and the Vision Zero and the changes to the plan, the road
Thank you, Mr.
designations
Thank you very much.
will help affect the plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Raja Shirvan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rajat Shivacharan, and I'm a Germantown resident that backs directly into Seneca Creek Park. I ask you to eliminate the proposed Mid-County Highway extended northern section from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways as recommended by the Montgomery County Planning Board. This decision is not only timely, but essential for aligning our infrastructure planning with the values and priorities of Montgomery County in 2025 and beyond. The proposed 5-mile extension would cut through some of the county's most sensitive ecological areas, including streams, valleys, parks, wetlands, and mature forests. These natural spaces are not just a scenic viewpoint, they are a vital carbon sinks, biodiversity havens, and buffers against climate change. Building a highway through them would fragment habitats, degrade water quality, and undermine our climate goals. Moreover, the Maryland 83 extension is inconsistent with Thrive Montgomery 2050 vision and the county's own climate action plan. Our future lies in sustainable multimodal transportation, not in expanding car-centric infrastructure that encourages sprawl and increases emissions. Instead of investing in outdated solutions, let us focus on enhancing transit options, improving existing corridors like Maryland 355, 270, and support walkable, connected communities. Removing MD 83 from the master plan is not a step backward, it is a bold step forward toward a more resilient, equitable, and environmentally responsible Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you. Orlando Guevara.
Hi, my name is Orlando Guevara. I am a lifetime county resident. I'm here in favor of removing M83 off of the master plan. Reasons being our environmental impacts, the destruction of parklands, wetlands, and streams and forests. It's the threat to the biodiversity there. It really breaks away 3 large biodiversity hubs, like the Seneca Creek watershed, the Great Seneca Creek Park, and the North Germantown Greenway, which are very important to cooling that area off. Lots more concrete will increase the temperature in that area, like it does here in Silver Spring and Rockville. Like all this concrete will increase the temperature drastically. Worsen stormwater runoff and habitat fragmentation. It will be very detrimental. Getting rid of all those trees. The fiscal concerns, this project is projected about $371 million, but that doesn't take into account the potentially higher price tag of environmental mitigation, stormwater management, noise abatement, and interchange connections. The budget trade-off, it funds about, I'd say, 20 to 45 miles of bus rapid, the BRT and the transit oriented development for the same money. We get a better deal with that public transportation than with the roads. That will really only decrease traffic by 3 minutes. Doing the BRT will increase the movement. The riders will increase by about 37% if you widen that BRT. The policy and equity issues, there's retrograde long-term planning. The critics, like us, because I don't like this plan, it's very car-centric based off of the 1960s, and we rely on cars in this area way too much. And like the person before me said, it really contradicts our plan of Thrive 2025 or 2050. My apologies. There's alternatives I overlooked, like the BRT, and also the neglected planning of the MCDOT. The traffic studies did not adequately consider the transit and the transportation demand management or the TSM alternatives. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Bobby Sinato.
Bobby Sinato here. One word that I can say, well, first I'm going to say I want to strike M83 from the master plan. Peace is the word I'm using right now. So my condo, the back of my condo is to like a water stream, a watershed, back over there by close to Walker. It's called Breckenridge, close to Walker's Choice, close to Hellingly. Now, if you've heard of the 1800 block of Breckenridge, or if you heard of Cider Mill or Hellingly, you'll think stress. Montgomery, this part of Montgomery Village is stress. There's a lot of stress there. So there's nothing like retiring to look out the window and see deer running back there, or hearing running water back there in the wintertime, seeing the changes of the seasons with the leaves coming on the trees and off, the groundhogs poking their heads around. You go down, you walk a little bit back by Walker's Choice, you can see the turtles and the geese play. And it's just it's a retreat from all of the gotta grind, gotta go get it and all that stuff. And I think we're overstimulated, we're oversaturated by those things. And I think this is it's good for the health. Have you ever heard that sound before? That's the sound of a fox. You ever heard of fox? I thought, foxes I thought they were like dogs. I thought they would bark, but and I was sleeping one night and it just woke me up. I was like, wait, did someone leave their baby in the forest? What's going on here? But it just, the more I hear, the more I learn. I've hiked this up. Lorianne Sales hiked with us one time with Tame. Yeah, and she had a good time, and she was fashionable. I was like, she was so fashionable. I'm like, I never. Hey, you got good balance. I couldn't wear high heels and hike. Just kidding, no. But anyways, she did hike with us, and we had a good time. And I just, everybody's got some good points. The people that want it, the people that don't, and I hope for the best for Montgomery County and the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you providing testimony. That is it for the in-person testimony on this bill. We will now go to our virtual testimony, and first up we have Zoe Conroy. Oh, she left? Okay, so next we have Beth Wolf.
Good afternoon, members of the County Council. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
My name is Beth. Okay, my name is Beth Wolf, and I serve as the president of the Clarksburg Neighbors Alliance. And I'm here today to urge you to wait and keep M83 in the Transportation Master Plan. Affordable housing is a major challenge in Montgomery County, and over the past 20 years, Clarksburg has stepped up, growing from 3,000 to over 46,000 residents. But unlike older communities, Clarksburg grew rapidly and is home to a large number of first-generation immigrants. We face unique vulnerabilities. We need additional infrastructure, but are still developing the skills and systems to advocate for them, especially since many in our community are ineligible to participate in the voting process. So we're told to wait. Wait on schools, wait on libraries, wait on retail, wait on county services, wait on amenities, wait on jobs, wait on roads. Meanwhile, housing continues to grow without the infrastructure to match. In August of 2024, our organization conducted a survey of over 250 Clarksburg residents, and transportation emerged as one of the top issues. Clarksburg growth was built on the promise of M83, and without it, we rely on I-270 and Route 355, a two-lane road that is our only north-south artery that serves local traffic from 3 schools, 3 fire stations, while bearing the overflow of regional traffic. It is now gridlocked, even for a trip to the grocery store. If you want to remove M83, but you haven't offered any real alternative, bus rapid transit has been proposed and is great in theory, but your transportation department didn't even know that BRT didn't exist in Clarksburg. There's no current study or plan to implement it in a viable or holistic way. The BRT studies were done over a decade ago, when Clarksburg's population was only 25% of what it is now. And before commuting patterns shifted significantly in a post-COVID and return to work world. There's no plan for blockable access for residents, parking near stops, a cost analysis, or environmental reviews on any of this. Additionally, there's no studies done if you don't build M83. And if BRT is the solution, why is a number of proposed stops in Clarksburg being cut from 6 to 2? We need a new study comparing the current traffic conditions, BRT alone, and BRT with M83, which again haven't been done. And so we ask you to wait. Keep M83 in the plan until those studies are done. The lack of viable transportation in Clarksburg is a safety, environmental, equity, economic, and community issue. And it contradicts the goals of Thrive Montgomery 2050. Removing M83 now without a real solution would give away any land that might be vital to implementing any viable public transit that would turn the tides on congestion, environmental change, and equity. So again, we urge you to wait, just like we have.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Larkin.
Good afternoon, members of the County Council. My name is Mike Larkin, and I'm speaking in my individual capacity today. Thank you for the time to address you virtually. I am testifying in support of removing the M83 highway from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways. Montgomery County has repeatedly committed itself to environmentally sustainable transportation. The Climate Action Plan states we have to reduce the use of cars and increase active transportation options and transit to decrease greenhouse gas emissions. Our Thrive 2050 General Plan explains reducing vehicle miles traveled is imperative for achieving our county's climate goals. The continuing existence of this highway in the master plan is an obvious contradiction. I'm not going to rehash technical studies about induced demand and the effects of that. I know you already have those studies. All I will say is Montgomery County will not do what many other localities and states have already tried to do, expanding highways to reduce traffic congestion. It doesn't work everywhere else it's been tried. It's not going to work here. I also would want to note the public health effects of building more highways. Just today, while I was eating lunch, I was reviewing an NIH study sent over to me by a friend about particulate matter in the air causing more lung cancer, increasingly, and it's overwhelming the positive effects of people not smoking as much. I would ask people to think about how building more highways and more pavement, more roads affects our public health. That's not equitable. Only more and improved transit, such as MARC trains and buses in dedicated lanes, can achieve the transportation and land use goals the county has set for itself. Now, this council just finished yet another arduous budget session where we made, once again, very difficult decisions on how to allocate our limited dollars. Keeping this highway in the master plan sends a message that we might not be as serious about improving ride-on and making our streets safer for bikers and pedestrians than we say we are. Let's remove this highway from the master plan to send a clear message that we are serious about the promises we have made, and we're also serious when we tell residents that our budget dollars are constrained and we have to make hard choices. So here's a choice we can make now. Choose to take this highway out of the plan and prioritize more sustainable, more pedestrian, more bike-friendly, more public transit-friendly transportation options. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Laura Marcus.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Marcus, and I live at 10758 Wayfair Road in Germantown, 20876. My husband and I purchased our home in 1987, and soon after, we learned that the alignment for the proposed M83 had changed, making the curb less than 45 feet from the corner of our garage. Watkins Meadow, which is the neighborhood that we live in, does not have a homeowners association. Therefore, our voices needed to be heard. As an active realtor in the community, I collected signatures from 89% of our homeowners asking for a better solution. I've attended and testified at almost every hearing, going back to April of 1988. Since that time, the Watkins Meadow homeowners have been working with Dayspring Church, Tame Coalition, members of Maryland Park and Planning, project managers from Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Property Acquisition, Department of Public Works, and many others. Millions and millions of taxpayers' dollars have already been spent on environmental studies, which the Army Corps of Engineers had expressed major concerns environmentally, and yet many permits were not issued. There's no clear answer that this road is really going to do much to alleviate the growing gridlock that we face every day. Back in October 2017, Montgomery County Council Hans Raymer had shared the Mid-County Corridor Study supplemental report from February of 2017. DOT had studied how the four possible alternatives would perform in 2040, using the same background assumptions about the development and the infrastructures. And they said, one was no build, no improvement to 355 or M83. There was scenario 1, which was to widen 355, add service lanes, improve intersections, and build the bus rapid transit on 355. Second scenario was to build two-lane reversible parkway on M83 route and BRT on 355. And then scenario 3 was to build a four-lane highway along the M83 right-of-way with no improvement on 355. Hans Raymer felt that scenario 1, widening the 355 and improving the intersections and building the BRT, should be the council's highest priority, in addition to the I-270 and the corridor's city's transitway. Compared to scenario 3, which was M83, scenario 1 would allow auto traffic times at rush hours that were only 2 to 3 minutes more, while allowing 22% of commuters to be able to take transit and producing 34 fewer vehicles per year. All right, I have submitted this in writing already, so if you can finish reviewing that part.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marcus. I appreciate it. Next, we have Jane Lyons, Raider.
Bring out.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Jane, but you're not on video yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not working. I have it on, but you all know what I look like, so I'm going to go ahead and share my testimony.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your flexibility.
Of course. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Jane Lyons Raider, and I strongly support the removal of M83 Mid-County Highway Extended from the county's master plan of highways and transitways. I do not support M83 for two major reasons. First is that highway construction is harmful to our environment. Many others have spoken to this more eloquently than I can, and the Tame Coalition has documented this for many years about what would happen if M83 were built. Second is that highway construction, we have seen, does not actually relieve traffic. This is why the 2017 MCDOT Mid-County Corridor Study supplemental report found that a transit-focused scenario could accommodate a large share of the future transportation needs along the corridor. In addition, the study found that building M83 would increase vehicle miles traveled, meaning that driving would increase, and also that greenhouse gas emissions would increase. So particularly in an era of constrained resources, Montgomery County should be spending transportation dollars on projects that are proven to improve quality of life and that further our sustainability goals. New highways do the opposite. and the master plan of highways and transitways should reflect realistic goals given the current and future challenges we face. However, the residents demanding mobility solutions are right. Up-county communities deserve better. Up-county communities deserve the high-quality public transportation, sidewalk, and bikeway investments that they were promised, as well as land use policies that will allow the corridor cities to be walkable, mixed-use places that they were originally supposed to be. This will make it easier for people to walk, take transit, and also easier to drive, not only in Up County, but everywhere in Montgomery County. We got ourselves into this mess of traffic through sprawl and an over-reliance on cars, and we're not going to get rid of it by continuing in the same manner. So in conclusion, I encourage you to remove M83 from the Master Plan of Highways and Transitways, and instead continue the critical project of ensuring that the corridor cities have sustainable land use and transportation planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Caroline Taylor, who is speaking to this bill as well as Bill 18-25, Forest Conservation Trees.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Making sure you can hear me first.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I am here on behalf of the board and membership of Montgomery Countryside Alliance. We are the home of LandLink Montgomery, Good Fences, Relief the Reserve, and the new Good Gift groundwater program. And we are also in strong support of the removal of this antiquated project from the master plan. And I will not repeat many of the strong, compelling, thoughtful testimonies that have been given today. I will say several things struck me in testimony. I was taken by the mathematician, for example, who quoted, "Never fall in love with your model." And I think that that's a striking statement with regard to this project that was inked many years ago and will fail to deliver relief now. The second part of his and other people's testimony was the notion that residents of Clarksburg and adjoining areas deserve better than the continued teasing of a project that just cannot deliver meaningful relief to them, and that we need to put our resources and our attention to those things that will. So for those reasons, we are so glad to be able to associate ourselves with the Planning Board's recommendations and those of our colleagues, in particular the TAME Coalition, that has been tenacious with fact-finding and putting forward this issue for a number of years. Now then, as to Bill 1825, I got questions. I'll start with a couple of congratulations to the county. One is the recent announcement that the U.S. Department of Energy bestowed upon the county the SolSmart Platinum Solar Energy Award, acknowledging a number of forward-thinking endeavors that we have put in place to advance renewable energy. Also, according to the Public Service Commission, we are second in the state in terms of generation of solar energy. And of course, we've been able to do that by minimizing and taking advantage of disturbed, developed areas rather than taking forests and prime farmland. And I will leave my thoughts about SB 931 to the side. But I will say, with regard to to 1825, when I say questions, one of them is the premise here is that this is housekeeping. And I don't know that that's an accurate way to put this. First of all, there are a number of aspects of what all of it that is there that were not discussed with important stakeholders before sending this to you. That is a trend that has been disturbing. Office of Agriculture, our agricultural producers, they're hiding in plain sight, and there are aspects of what's being proposed that will affect them. Not the least of which is how we define a tree without regard to whether it's actually a native tree, a productive tree, or an invasive tree. I hope that in committee we will be able to ferret out details and not step on the ability of producers to manage their invasives, etc., on their property. Also, the contention is that you have to pass this package of things because, well, they put something forward at the state and the county has to do what the state does. In all the years I've been doing my job, it has been my understanding that counties have the ability to put forward stronger provisions, stronger regulations, especially with regard to the environment, that rather than lesser ones. So with the case of afforestation and losing that as making an exemption for solar, I would wonder why would the county accept that without consulting with their county attorney and making sure that they're not giving up an important tool to make sure that we achieve no net loss in the county. Let's not give away things before we're certain that we have to. And with that, and I realize I'm almost at the end here, I want to say thank you to you all for sitting so long, and hopefully we'll get some rain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Next we have Jason George.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Council. My name's Jason George. I'm here, a Germantown resident, testifying in opposition to the removal of M83 from the Master Plan of Highways. I come here asking something very simple, nearly just common sense, which is the Planning Board has proposed a study of the transportation needs in the Clarksburg, Germantown area of the county. I'm asking you to preserve the status quo until that study is complete. That is, what the Planning Board has recommended lacks any rational basis why you would, give up a right-of-way, a crucial transportation asset before completing the study. I'm not even asking for the road to be complete or ever to be completed. All I'm asking is that this transportation asset be preserved for some purpose until that study is complete. This right-of-way is very necessary for the northeastern part of the county, Clarksburg, Damascus, and other communities such as Goshen to reach more easily public transportation assets like Shady Grove Metro Station. There's not really a viable route to get there other than rural roads, which are overburdened and breaking down, including, a bridge that along Brink Road that is in need of critical repair. BRT is not a viable alternative or replacement for this right-of-way. People several miles to the east would be using this right-of-way from where BRT is recommended at the moment. I would also ask you to take stock of the very people whose voices are absent from this discussion today, those people who have to commute along 355 and 270 and other places from Clarksburg in the northern Up County into DC and Virginia. When the Planning Board was generous enough to hold a hearing in the evening at the Up County Services Center in Germantown, you heard a very different array of voices with a lot of Clarksburg residents who actually commute on these roads coming out to testify because they could. Not everyone can take off work. I would urge you to please, talk with Clarksburg and northern Germantown, Damascus residents before making a decision. I would very much urge you to ride along with them in a commute. Reach out to me personally, my contact information. I will help you get connected with people, especially members of the council who probably aren't familiar with this part of the county. I would say a lot also gets talked about M83 being a broken promise, but in reality, it's only the 11 of you who can break this promise, and voting to remove M83 from the master plan would be breaking that promise. So therefore, I am testifying in strong opposition to the removal of M83 from the master plan of highways. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Francois Andre.
Hi, good afternoon. Françoise André, board member of the Seneca Creek Watershed Partners Association, which I represent, in favor of removing M83. Let's talk first about the environmental and community impact of M83. The Montgomery County Planning Board recently concluded that the northern section of M83 would have a potentially calamitous impact on existing wetlands, forests, stream crossings, floodplains, and the biodiversity, as well as on climate resilience, with reduction of tree canopy, which is against what the Montgomery County goals is, community health, property values, and outdoor experience, as well as on habitat fragmentation, noise, light, and air pollution, including at the EPA-recognized hotspots in Germantown, Montgomery Village, and Gaithersburg. Let's talk more specifically on the climate impact. M83 would exacerbate the climate emergency by putting more cars on the road, removing forests, and creating new heat islands of asphalt and pavement. In August 2022, Montgomery County conducted a heat mapping campaign to identify urban heat islands and how it affects communities. In a heat map, the blue color means cool, the red color means hot. The Montgomery County heat mapping shows distinct blue and therefore cool zones corresponding to the forested areas of the Seneca Stream valleys and park, all surrounded by red and therefore hot, non-forested urban areas. M83 would destroy and degrade this cool forest and therefore significantly heat up our neighborhood. With climate change, this is the last thing we need. We are therefore urging you to follow the Planning Board's recommendation to remove once and for all the northern section of M83 from the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Naomi Thompson.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Montgomery Council, fellow Montgomery County residents. My name is Naomi Thompson, as you just introduced me. I'm a resident in Germantown, Maryland, living right off the Mid-County Highway, Grassy Knoll Terrace neighborhood, again, in Germantown. I probably called Montgomery County home since about 96, so I'm essentially a lifelong resident. I moved here at the age of 6. My family is local, and the quality of life that I've come to love is rooted in this community. Over the years, I've watched this county evolve through many changes, but what's always kept me here is the commitment to preserving expansive green space alongside thoughtful urban development. That value is what brings me to the following. I'm speaking today to urge you as well to urge the county to remove the northern extension of the M83 highway from all current and future master plans. My home is just steps away from the Greenway Trail along the Great Seneca Creek, which I hike daily with my 2 dogs and my young child. This trail and the surrounding forest isn't just recreational space, it's shared space that currently brings people together from Germantown, Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village, and probably even Clarksburg. Every day I see hikers, runners, bikers, birdwatchers, and most importantly, children enjoying the trail and connecting with nature. When we purchased our home in 2021, we were told that there were no plans for a highway. But we've since learned that the M83 is still in the master plan. Most of our neighbors are unaware of this, and none that I've talked to support it. If built, M83 would border our neighborhood, landlocking us, reducing our green space, increasing traffic danger near homes and daycares, and destroy part of what makes our area livable. Beyond the neighborhood impact, the environmental loss, which I know has been spoken of to length today, would be severe. Paving the forest land means more stormwater runoff, fewer trees to absorb carbon, degraded air and water quality, loss of wildlife habitat, and the forest is doing the real environmental work for us. I urge the county, instead of building redundant highways, we should focus on expanding current public transit, expanding current existing state roads, instead of just creating new ones that are more suitable, forward-thinking solutions that reflect the value of our county without sacrificing natural spaces. So again, I ask you on behalf of my family, my neighbors, many others here today, please remove the northern extension of the M83 from all master plans, and let's invest in a future that prioritizes the community and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes all the speakers we have on this item. The public hearing is now closed. Next is item 4 is a public hearing on expedited bill 16-25, personnel employees retirement system, membership requirements and membership group. This bill would make certain emergency communication managers eligible for retirement group E and generally amend the law regarding the employees retirement system. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for July 17th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 10th, 2025. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Next is item 5 is a public hearing on Bill 17-25, Contracts and Procurement, General Provisions, Exemptions, Internet Access Service. This bill would exempt the acquisition of Internet Access Service from procurement law. A Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session is scheduled for July 17th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 10th, 2025. There are no registered speakers for this hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Next is item 6 is a public hearing on Bill 18-25, Forest Conservation Trees. This bill would define a solar photovoltaic facility and remove afforestation requirements for such facilities, add new categories to the priorities of forest retention, reinstate forest mitigation banks that protect existing forests, remove significant trees from tree save plan requirements, and generally amend the law governing forest conservation. A Transportation Environment Committee work session is scheduled for July 28th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 21st, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have one speaker who is in person, Kelsey Desmond from our planning department. Welcome.
All right, good afternoon, council members. My name is Kelsey Desmond, and I am a forest conservation planner with Montgomery Planning. I manage the department's Reforest Montgomery program, which offers free trees and reforestation for county residents. Today, I'm here to represent the planning department and answer questions about the proposed changes to the county's forest conservation law, or Chapter 22A. Bill 1825 reflects proposed changes to Chapter 22A and to the corresponding regulations. The amendment is needed to align the county code with recent changes to the statewide Forest Conservation Act. Senate Bill 0526 came into effect on July 1st, 2024. Other minor changes recommended by planning staff are intended to clarify and update sections of the Forest Conservation Law and Forest Conservation Trees regulations. These changes also serve to codify existing staff practice. President Stewart noted a few of the notable changes. I've also had to practice saying solar photovoltaic facility. We also, I will note, move to remove afforestation requirements to solar photovoltaic facilities as required by state law. We add 4 new categories to the priorities for forest retention as updated by state law. We reinstate forest mitigation banks that protect existing forest and stipulate that purchasing credits from these banks can only account for 50% of requirements in this chapter as provided by state law. And finally, we remove significant trees from tree safe plan requirements and adjust other language in section 22A6. On December 5th, 2024, the Montgomery County Planning Board approved these changes and recommended transmittal of a bill to the County Council. The proposed amendment has been thoroughly reviewed by the Maryland Department of Natural Resources for compliance with Maryland's Forest Conservation Act. We look forward to discussing the amendment and working with you to finalize these changes to the county's forest conservation law. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Great, thank you so much. Now we will turn to our virtual speakers on this item, and the first up is Bob Sissel.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bob, we can hear you.
Thank you, Council President Stewart. And my name is Bob Sissel. I'm the director of Montgomery Ag Producers. It's a farming organization that represents farming in the county. And I'm going to speak today. I'm going to turn in some written testimony later, but you can accept this as a verbal. Montgomery Ag Producers opposes this bill as it's written. As we understand, the intent of the bill was to codify the county's laws in accordance with some state laws. Somehow, however, this bill went beyond its intent to match the state laws, and one issue that concerns the ag community is the change in definition of a tree. I don't know how this got in this, since it was understanding that the bill was just purely to bring the county up to speed with state laws and codify them, but somehow this got in here. A tree is a large woody plant, one or several self-supporting stems or trunks measuring at least 1 inch in diameter and numerous branches of height up to 20 feet in maturity. State law currently defines a tree. I don't see why the planning department has decided that they need to redefine the definition of a tree and make it different than the state, but somehow that seemed to happen and bring it down to a 1 inch in diameter tree. We have many other questions about the bill and would suggest that anything that goes beyond the purpose of codifying laws with the county and the state should be addressed in a separate bill. We would also suggest that the council review compelling testimony that was submitted by John Zolotowski, the director of the Montgomery County Soil Conservation District. He really put a good piece of a testimony together explaining about forest management. We would ask for an unfavorable consideration on this bill. We suggest returning the bill to Park and Planning and ask them to consult with the ag community in detail to address our concerns. We thank you for the consideration. MAP as an organization would be available to participate in future work sessions with Park and Planning and or with the T&E committee if this bill moves forward. We're here, we'd like to be on the front end of these bills and not the back end. We don't like always looking to be the complainer. If we were involved in the early process of this bill, maybe it would look a little differently. But we're working to correct those problems for the future with Park and Planning. And of course, we've always worked very closely with the council and the county executive. That's the end of my testimony. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Next, we have Doug Lechleider.
That's close.
Sorry. It's getting to be a long day.
It is, and I'll be very brief. I want to thank you, President Stewart, and council members for the opportunity to express our opinion on this bill, 1825. Again, my name is Doug Lechleider. I'm a lifelong farmer in Laytonsville, and I'm here today as chair of the Legislative Committee of Montgomery County Farm Bureau. The Montgomery County Farm Bureau is opposed to this bill. We're told that this bill is needed to align the county with current state law, Bill 0526. This may or may not be completely accurate, but to be sure, this bill goes beyond state law. Montgomery County Farm Bureau's concern is on line 38 and 39 of Bill 18-25. It appears that the definition of a tree is changed as follows. Tree means a large woody plant having one or several self-supporting stems or trunks measuring at least 1 inch in caliber and numerous branches that reach a height of at least 20 feet at maturity. Our concern is that this is so very restrictive redefinition of a tree. Farmers would be hindered in their normal maintenance of fence rows and natural waterways. Some species of trees, tree of heaven for example, can grow 8 to 10 feet in the first year. And for this reason, Montgomery County Farm Bureau agrees with the Montgomery Soil Conservation District's written testimony on Bill 1825. Authority to approve ag-related land activities should be under the authority of Montgomery Soil Conservation District. Again, Montgomery County Farm Bureau is opposed to this bill, and I want to thank you for considering our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Savi Lank.
Hello, Montgomery County Council. My name is Sonvi Lamke, and I'm a rising 8th grader in Montgomery County Public Schools. Today, I'm testifying in favor with amendments of Bill 1825, Forest Conservation Trees. In a time when we're struggling to conserve and preserve life in our forests, conservation efforts should be at the forefront of immediate environmental action. Unfortunately, urbanization is destroying so many natural habitats by taking away trees that are so vital to our environment. Trees clean the air we breathe, support numerous species, support water conservation, soil health, and many more. Since 1990, 1.11 billion acres of forest land have been lost. That's more than 1.6 times the size of Argentina. It takes trees more than 10 to 40 years to fully mature, but all it takes is a few seconds for them to be gone. This is why conserving trees should be a priority and a responsibility we all share. Bill 1825 is a strong step forward for forest conservation. It really prioritizes preserving existing forests rather than only relying on planting new ones. It also brings back forest mitigation banks, which are important tools to protect larger, more meaningful forests. However, while this bill does a lot of good, we must be careful not to let important protections slip through the cracks. One concern is the removal of significant trees from the tree save plan. These trees have large canopies that provide shade, store carbon, support biodiversity, and make our neighborhoods more livable. Without strong requirements to preserve them, developers might remove them unnecessarily, creating long-term damage that's hard to reverse. I urge the Council to consider making an amendment to keep protections for significant trees wherever possible, or at least require a formal review process before removal. Additionally, when forest mitigation funds are used, we must ensure that they are distributed equally. They should also be clear, enforceable criteria for which solar projects qualify for planting exemptions to prevent unintended loopholes. And finally, public reporting and transparency are essential to ensure residents stay informed and developers are held accountable for their actions. This matters in the long term because the decisions we make now shape the environment that future generations will inherit. We can't grow back a 100-year-old tree, but we can make the decision to protect it today. Climate change and nature loss are challenges that we must face together, and that starts with strong, thoughtful local policies. Thank you for your time and for listening to Student Voices. I hope you support Bill 1825 with amendments to ensure we preserve trees to make our county a greener and healthier place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who provided testimony on this bill. This public hearing is now closed. Next is item 7, and it's a public hearing on expedited bill 20-25, Economic Development Corporation, Economic Development Strategic Plan, deadlines. This bill would alter due dates associated with the preparation of an economic development strategic plan and generally amend the law regarding the Economic Development Corporation and the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Council action is tentatively scheduled for July 15th, 2025. Those wishing to submit materials for the Council's consideration should do so by the close of business today. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You'll hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everybody abiding by their allotted time. We have one speaker, Mr. Gordy Bren is here, and you're also speaking on Bill 22-25, Labor Peace Agreement, Hotel Development Project, so you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Gordy Brenny with the Taxpayers League. I'm also a tree hugger and a former Eagle Scout, but it's my distinct pleasure to talk to you today about economic development. Our economic development strategy to expand the commercial tax base is not competitive and needs a new approach. We urge you to test new strategies to expand our commercial tax base before the bill's new March 2027 Council draft deadline. This will also mitigate the structural deficit time bomb that will explode in 2 years. The next executive director does need time to take control of the process, but this time should be used by the Council to lay the groundwork for success. Use this bill to clearly state the Council's objectives for the next plan, so there's no surprise about what's expected, and taxpayers have assurance that you're making changes today so that the next plan can be implemented quickly and go beyond the aspirational wallpaper of past plans. 3 suggestions. 1, refocus on commercial employers beyond life science. AstraZeneca is one of our largest organizations in our commercial tax base, and we just lost their plant expansion to Frederick County. Other plant development in North Bethesda is too focused on government agencies that don't pay taxes. White Oak development is mostly residential with only temporary construction jobs. Why aren't we looking at leisure and hospitality jobs where we already have strengths with Marriott and Choice? 2, include transportation solutions. This is ignored in the current plan for political reasons. Fixing the American Legion Bridge and the Beltway are key to networking our very strong employment strengths across the DMV. 3, restructure property taxes. The Taxpayer League's testimony in May about income taxes called for a new economic development model to pace increasing government costs with commercial job growth to reduce our dependence on government jobs and provide more property and income tax revenue to pay for growth. Restructuring the property tax assessment process with a county takeover will allow us to lower the property tax rate, give state higher income taxes in exchange for their 10% haircut, and increase accountability and boost revenue by $500 million. I'm going to turn now to labor peace. I'm a former Marriott controller, and I speak today only about taxpayer league interests. We want more commercial economic development to shift the burden of supporting our increasingly expensive county government off residents' shoulders and to create more jobs. Labor peace is an expensive, non-competitive distraction. There are many hotels in the county that offer competitive conference services without the encumbrance of a labor peace agreement. Why then does the county own a conference center? Given the county's tight capital budget, is this the most cost-effective use of taxpayer money? Does the county know more about how to use labor peace agreements to implement best practices and cost controls than Marriott? Are taxpayers unwittingly paying conference center capital costs, which subsidizes non-county customers who only pay enough to offset Marriott's operating costs? Instead of this bill, sell the conference center to the highest bidder. Use the proceeds to pay down county debt. The new owner will pay property taxes, increase utilization of this asset, and the commercial tax base. Governments and businesses outsource services to implement best practices and improve cost controls so that they can focus on their core mission. Undermining a business partner's management role in labor negotiations reduces that partner's ability to deliver cost-effective services by adding work rules that will constrain best practices. Service union employees' work rule standards can even reduce the number of employees a contractor can profitably hire. It's been said that labor peace is clearly needed to avoid disruption from labor strikes, picketing, boycotts. But this is avoidable if management's free to offer competitive agreements that satisfy owners, suppliers, and employees. Being neutral eliminates this management opportunity for balanced solutions. Why should taxpayers subsidize conference center employees when there's a competitive market for this service? Similar disregard for productivity is why policymakers have failed to update the 2011 competitive salary survey to justify above-market pay raises for county employees. Labor peace with the teachers union is why we've had years of mediocre school performance while paying teachers an average of over $107,000 for 10 months of work. Labor peace is why county taxpayers are not paying 10% annual property tax increases, while our closest competitors in Fairfax and Howard County experience better economic development results, offer soaring property tax assessment increases by offsetting them, and decrease property tax rates or reduce costs to hold the line in taxes. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much. Those are all the speakers for this public hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Our next item is item 8, is a public hearing on Bill 22-25, Labor Peace Agreements, Hotel Development Projects. This bill would require certain employers, as a condition of the county's economic participation in hotel development projects, to enter into labor peace agreements with labor organizations, establish minimum requirements for labor peace agreements, and generally amend the law regarding economic participation by the county in hotel development projects and labor peace agreements. A joint Government Operations and Fiscal Policy and Economic Development Committee work session is scheduled for July 24th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 17th, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have 3 speakers in person, Mr. Ken Hartman Espada, Angela Franco, and Lisa Smith. You want to come up? No, Mr. Espada, you are quick. Mr. Hartman Espada, if you want to start, you can kick us off.
Thank you so much, Council President Stewart and members of the County Council. For the record, my name is Ken Hartman Espada. I'm Assistant Chief Administrative Officer in the Office of the County Executive. I'm here to provide some information for you on behalf of the County Executive. Without a question, the County Executive and every member of this council is committed to fostering a fair and equitable workplace for all employees, and as leaders, everyone firmly supports the right of workers to organize and advocate for better wages, benefits, and working conditions. I led the county team that negotiated the updated management agreement with Marriott for the continued operation of the Montgomery County Conference Center. I firmly believe the negotiated agreement was the best contract for all parties. We entered the negotiations with a list of priorities, including unionization language,
and we achieved most of our original goals. For example, through the negotiations, the annual revenue the county receives from the conference center doubled to $1 million a year and will increase to $1.25 million after 5 years. The number of county days that we get at a substantial discount increased. We strengthened our position on the management committee. We clarified the property interests for the parcel and improved partnerships with Visit Montgomery. The county executive directed us to ensure that employees' rights under the National Labor Relations Act were recognized and respected in the event of unionization. The management agreement could not include a labor peace agreement. The only contracts covered in current county law are contracts to provide residential solid waste recycling and yard waste collection. But we made progress. Unlike previous agreements, the new agreement includes language requiring the operator to adhere to federal labor laws should employees wish to pursue collective bargaining. And we reached an accommodation that in the event of unionization, there would be open dialogue between the operator and the county, and that the county would share the economic cost of that organization. It's important to note here that the management agreement only applies to the conference center. The hotel building is owned by a third party which has a long-term ground lease. That owner, in turn, has an agreement with Marriott to manage the hotel. The county executive in recent months and weeks has engaged with Unite Here 25 and Marriott to ensure our commitment to workers' rights is upheld. We understand that a thriving workplace is key to the success of the conference center and to the economic well-being of Montgomery County. The county executive is committed to continuing the dialogue with the parties to work towards a resolution of this situation, and he stands with workers should they seek to organize. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Franco?
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, Vice President Jawanda, and members of the Council. I'm Angela Franco, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. The Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, along with its United Chamber partners, some of whom are sitting behind me, wish to express our collective concerns regarding Bill 2225 as currently drafted. Our primary concern lies in the overly broad language of the bill and its potential impact on the economic landscape of Montgomery County. As a united group of chambers, we urge the Council to collaborate with us and other stakeholders to find common ground on this bill, as we commend the willingness of the Council members we've engaged with so far to seek the common ground. The partnership between the County Council and the business community is critical. We support fair labor practices and are open to engaging in constructive dialogue with Council members regarding amendments that bring a more narrowly tailored scope. A balanced approach is essential to uphold workers' rights while fostering economic growth. We do, however, remain concerned that the bill may seek to alter agreements that both sides negotiated in good faith, which undermines trust and predictability in the county's business environment. We are also concerned about the bill's expansive definition of economic participation that seems like it would apply even in cases where the county's involvement is minimal, indirect, or passive. We look forward to working with the committees where the bill will be assigned to craft amendments. We also want to say for the record that Montgomery County's hospitality sector is a vital engine of tourism, tax revenue, job creation, and economic vitality. Montgomery County is the headquarters for 2 international hotel chains, and the Bethesda North Marriott serves as the county's only conference center. Simply, the hospitality industry is a strategic economic pillar here in Montgomery County. In conclusion, we look forward to working collaboratively on thoughtful, balanced policies that reflect the county's values while maintaining a stable, business-friendly environment that encourages investments and growth. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Good afternoon, President Stewart, member of the County Council. For the record, my name is Lisa Smith. I represent District 14 on the Montgomery County Democrat Central Committee. I'm a proud member of Unite Here Local 25, and I serve as a delegate to the Metropolitan Washington Council AFL-CIO. Additionally, I am a member of the Montgomery County Mid-County Citizen Advisory Board, but my most important job is I'm a single mother raising my son in Montgomery County. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today in strong support of Bill 2225, which will ensure labor peace agreements are a condition of the county economic participation in hotel development project. Let me begin with a simple truth here. Montgomery County is not affordable for most working families. The cost of living here continues to rise while too many workers, especially those in the hospitality industry, are left behind. I know this because I was one of them. Before I joined a union, I struggled paycheck to paycheck, wondering how I'm going to keep the lights on, afford my mortgage, take care of my son. But everything changed the day I got a job at a union hotel, a job that exists only because the hotel had a labor peace agreement before it even opened. That union job gave me something that every parent deserves: a living wage, job security, access to quality health care. For the first time, I could breathe. I could plan my future, my son's future. I wasn't stuck with choosing between groceries and a medical bill. But here, the painful part. I was the lucky one. Most hospitality workers in Montgomery County don't have the protection I do. In fact, there is currently only one unionized hotel in the entire county. The rest of our hotel workers, many of whom are Black and brown people, earn less than the unionized worker in neighboring area. They receive fewer benefits and face greater issues on the job. That's not just economic injustice, it's a moral one. Bill 2225 is not just a policy change, it's a commitment to dignity, fairness, and opportunity for workers to make this county thrive. It says that if Montgomery County is going to invest in hotel development, we must invest in the people who clean the room, cook the meals, and carry the bags. It ensures that new development don't just profit developers, they empower working families. As a proud member of Unite Here Local 25, and as someone who lives every day in the reality of what collective bargaining can do, I'm here to say I support the bill. And in closing, real quick, I want to give a thank you to all the 8 members who co-sponsored this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for your testimony today. You don't have to sit up here. We'll go to the virtual testimony. And our first person is Amy Rower.
Good afternoon, President Stewart, Vice President Jawando, and members of the council. My name is Amy Rohrer. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Hotel Lodging Association, testifying in respectful opposition to Bill 2225. I've also submitted written testimony. It's important to state that our members do share the county's interest in responsible development, and we support fair labor practices. However, as drafted, we feel this bill is overly broad, one-sided, and unfairly targets the hospitality industry. The bill applies only to hotels and conference centers, even though the county partners with many different industries. This selective approach sends a troubling message to our members. Hospitality is being singled out despite being one of the hardest hit industries during the pandemic and one of the most active in rehiring. The lack of protection for employers in this bill is especially troubling. The bill offers no safe harbor for employers who negotiate in good faith but cannot reach agreement within 60 days due to unreasonable demands. This creates legal and contractual risk for hotel developers and operators. The bill also places restrictions on employer rights and communication. Labor peace agreements limit employers from sharing factual information with employees, even in response to direct questions from them. This bill not only undermines employers' rights under the National Labor Relations Act, it also denies employees access to balanced information. This creates an uneven environment, one that can lead to decisions that are made without full context or understanding. This bill also places our regional competitiveness at risk. In Montgomery County, the lodging industry primarily competes with Northern Virginia. It's notable that jurisdictions such as Fairfax and Arlington have not adopted similar mandates. If passed, Montgomery County will be an outlier in the region and will find it harder to attract hotel investors, new brands, and future economic development, given the new obligations and added complexity proposed by this bill. In closing, I urge the council to reconsider the long-term impacts of this proposal. We welcome continued dialogue and stand ready to work together on a more balanced approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Adam Yalowitz.
Thank you, Council President, and apologies for not testifying in person this afternoon, but wanted to speak about the labor peace policies that are proposed. I think these are fairly standard policies, both in the region and nationally, particularly in the hospitality industry. I think almost every major hospitality employer has experience with these policies. Like Ken noted, I think this is actually the opposite of singling out an industry. It's in response to a specific problem in that the county had a labor peace agreement ordinance on the books for residential waste or recycling collection, but did not cover the county-owned conference center. I think the reason why, from our perspective, this is coming up now is because the county does own a conference center and is considering participating via TIF and otherwise in mixed-use commercial development projects that include hotels. So I think far from singling out the hospitality industry, this is in response to kind of a gap in law in the law that was on the books. I think unfortunately this law was not on the books, like Ken noted previously, I think if the county had engaged in development projects like it is now, like DC and other jurisdictions that have, I think it's not true that other jurisdictions don't have this law. This is Maryland. It's on the books as state law for the casinos that were developed. This is how the concessions programs run, both as the state RFP at BWI. It's how the National Harbor Project was developed. It's been law in DC for over a decade. And the hospitality industry, in our experience, actually is more at risk if there is labor disruption, because it can unfortunately disrupt customers' experience at events. Northern Virginia right now has 5 union hotels. Montgomery County only has 1. I think it puts Montgomery County at a competitive disadvantage because customers in Montgomery County are overwhelmingly sympathetic and want to have guarantees that there's not going to be picket lines when they have events at the county-owned conference center. One other correction is that the bill as drafted does have a safe harbor. If a labor organization was to make capricious or arbitrary demands. So I think that's just to correct that. And I think the last reason why this is coming up is because Trump's attacks on the NLRB unfortunately make labor disputes more common, because workers' due process rights at the NLRB, we think, will basically be non-existent over the next couple of years. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Next, we have Sam Epps. Sam, can you hear us?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairwoman Stewart, President Stewart, and Vice President Giwando. Thank you for this time. I'm Sam Epps, the President of Metropolitan Washington Council, representing 150 affiliate unions and 150,000 workers across the region, Montgomery County, where we have a host of workers. I'm here in support of Bill 2225, and just to begin by saying, this bill supports and protects the county when it has ongoing proprietary interest in development projects, and it's a direct interest in the financial performance, and must make prudent management decisions similar to any other business entity to ensure efficient management of its business concerns and to maximize benefits and minimize risks. And so just emphasizing that this is very common in the region, and also across many local jurisdictions jurisdictions that require labor peace in hotel development. It's been over a decade, and the District of Columbia having this ordinance on the book that resulted into the Marriott Marquis, the Conrad, the Line Hotel, and then in Maryland around gaming, MGM, Gaylord, also were under this. But those jurisdictions are Washington, D.C., Baltimore, the state of New York, the state of Connecticut, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Miami, Minneapolis, Boston, Denver, Houston, Tucson, Los Angeles, and many other jurisdictions as well too. It is also used in the state of Maryland at BWI, and also at the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority, respectively, has used labor peace. And what it does is it protects the interest of the county, but also allows workers the opportunity to decide how their employment is, to have rights, respect, and dignity on the job. And so for that reason, the Metropolitan Washington Council supports this bill and asks that you give it a favorable report. So thank you very much, President Stewart, for the time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Those are all the speakers we have. This public hearing is now closed. Item 9 is a public hearing on Bill 25-25, Taxation Payments in Lieu of Taxes, Public Housing Authorities. This bill would define housing authority, expand the automatic payment in lieu of taxes for public housing authorities of qualifying housing developments, modify the procedural method for executive regulations, make technical and stylistic changes, and generally amend the law governing a payment in lieu of real property taxes. A joint government operations and fiscal policy and planning, housing, and parks committee work session is scheduled for July 24th, 2025. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 17th, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. Ms. Finnegan, I see you're ready to rock and roll. You are testifying actually on 3 bills today, the one I just mentioned, as well as Bill 24-25, Transportation Demand Management Repeal, and resolution to approve the creation of a development district and tax increment financing district in White Oak. You have 5 minutes to testify on all 3 bills.
Thank you. And I want to make sure that this happens before we have the power outage.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I am Eileen Finnegan. I'm a resident of Hillendale, and as background, I had the privilege of representing my community as a member of the White Oak Science Gateway Master Plan Advisory Committee so long ago and for so many years. Regarding Bill 2525, this bill does not appear to address a particular circumstance which is now happening, and that is for-profit landowners with long-term rent agreements for these nonprofit housing projects. These arrangements impact long-term affordability of the rental units by requiring ever-escalating land rent spread over the project. An example of this is HOC's Hillendale Gateway project. In 2021, HOC approved an unsolicited offer in which the underlying Holly Hall land was sold to a development partner with a 99-year ground rent agreement. Although the warranty deed is recorded, the actual land ownership is not reflected in the SDAT files or in the Montgomery County finance system. HOC is shown as both the owner of the land and the improvements. Why would property taxes on this privately owned underlying land not be assessed for taxes? I've attached a deed and a snip from the HOC staff report, which provides a little bit of background on the agreement to my testimony, which I hope you all have. On Bill 2425, Transportation Demand Management, the repeal. The TDM program is riddled with issues, especially inaccurate data,
and lack of meaningful implementation. Repealing the TDM makes sense. But with this repeal, there's an unintended consequence for the White Oak Science Gateway area. Council's pay-and-go policy, this is a mouthful, the Local Area Improvement Transportation Program, also called the LATIP, is based on TDM implementation of aspirational non-driver mode share goals. The LATIP fee structure was formulated using a model which included high NADMS numbers along with complete dedicated lane BRTs. Some of that transportation analysis was questionable, and now it's really doubtful. With a TDM repeal, it is incumbent on Council to reconsider the White Oak Science Gateway LATIP program. The program has been frozen in time with expectations that large development with high-paying job growth was imminent. Since there's not been significant development or job growth in the past decade, infrastructure improvements, often seen in other parts of the county as part of normal county business, have not happened. Everything was going to be done through the LATIP. It was the magic solution. In the meantime, county transportation LATR standards have evolved further in the recent growth policy. But the White Oak Science Gateway area is not covered by these new standards. Please review the LATIP as you do this. And finally, number 3, resolution regarding the TIF financing for White Oak. As this resolution moves forward this afternoon, I trust that Council and Planning will be in the weeds ensuring the success of the TIF and the Viva White Oak project. News reports have tagged this TIF as being worth $320 million in tax revenue being directed to what normally would be developer-provided infrastructure. It's my understanding that the county's 2016 General Development Agreement with Global Life Science Development Corporation will pass through to MCB, with GLDC remaining as a partner. As such, I trust that the county executive team and the council will review all the conditions and prior commitments made by the county and GLDC. The GDA is also attached with my emails. There are several questions regarding the intersection of the GDA and the TIF. I have 4 of them here. Will the county's current $40 million road project CIP now be covered by the TIF? Will the $32 million deferred payment transaction, will those credits be available to MCB? When will the concrete recycling business end? The mining permit goes until 2027. And will GLDC fund and complete the environmental cleanup of their quarry and concrete recycling operation as agreed?
Thank you. Thank you. And we've received your written testimony as well that reflects that. We already got that. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Those are all the in-person testimony we have. We will now go virtual to Steve Silverman.
Well, good afternoon, President Stewart and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on behalf of Rockville Housing Enterprises. I have to say, when people ask me if I miss debating housing policy, school funding issues, environmental issues from the days I was on the council, I say no. What I really miss is sitting through 72 speakers. My congratulations to President Stewart and all of you on the council for hearing the public on all of these important issues. I'm here on behalf of RHE in a process that I hope is going to culminate in RHE being one of the housing authorities to be able to get by right pilots. This process with RHE and the county and the state has gone on for a year and a half. It came about because RHE had to create its own nonprofit LLC in order to do the Scarborough Square deal. That sort of triggered a conversation about, well, why couldn't RHE just do this? Because it's a housing authority, and it's not worth getting into the discussions for the last year and a half, except to say the key question that RHE has that we would ask the council to get confirmation from the Department of Housing and Community Affairs is whether they acknowledge that under this bill, RHE will in fact be eligible for a by right pilot as a housing authority. We had proposed to some council members that RHE just be designated like HOC is in the current legislation, or that you take the ROFR language, which specified RHE and other housing authorities, and put them in by name. But the drafters put it together, tied into a state codification of housing authorities. So the key question that I hope the council will take up in the committee is to get a commitment from DHCA that RHE will in fact be eligible under this piece of legislation, since I think that's the intent, but RHE would like to make sure that that happens. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and your continued public service.
Thank you. Those are all the speakers for this public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. Item 10 is a public hearing on Bill 24-25, Transportation Demand Management repeal. This bill would repeal Article 2 of Chapter 42A of the Montgomery County Code and amend the law governing transportation demand management in the county. A Transportation Environment Committee will be scheduled for a later date. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on July 17, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have 3 speakers here in person. We have Hallie Peckett, Bill Commoners, and Leslie Weber. Ms. Peckett, you can start.
Thank you, President Stewart, Vice President Joando, and members of the council. My name is Haley Peckett. I am the Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation, and I am testifying on behalf of the county executive and the executive branch. Transportation demand management has the mission to reduce single occupancy vehicles and shift trips to sustainable modes. And it's one of the most cost-effective strategies that we have to achieve the mode shift that the county, state, and region need to meet our transportation, climate, and environmental goals. MCDOT has been managing our TDM program under the commuter services section since the 1980s under various legislative frameworks. In the past 4 decades, we found that having a legislative requirement for TDM activities makes a difference in terms of the number of people that we can reach and the ease of making these relationships and getting their commitments. MCDOT sees a need for laws that codify the goals of TDM, define the elements of TDM, and establishes authority for the department and for partner agencies to manage TDM. We also recognize the goal to make the county an attractive place to do business. So I want to point out that our neighboring jurisdictions all have some form of TDM requirements that are often tied to development review. We've submitted a more detailed written testimony that spells out the fees and requirements for some of these jurisdictions, as well as addressing other goals and potential points of confusion in the current legislation. We are concerned about the negative and inequitable impacts that arise from nullifying the existing developer TDM plans and traffic mitigation agreements. In many cases, these plans were included as a condition of development approval in lieu of built improvements to offset their traffic impacts. There are also potential legal concerns regarding terminating existing agreements or liens, and these are from the Office of the County Attorney and are included in the executive's written testimony. We have begun conversations with the bill sponsor and with our proposal of a streamlined new legislation that focuses on maintaining relationships between the department and the employer building owner. We're very grateful for these conversations. These relationships allow us to effectively share information on things such as new transit routes, such as the Ride On Reimagined and the Better Bus Network that just launched recently, incentive programs, and other transportation options and activities to encourage mode shift. MCDOT can be much more effective when there is a legislative basis for the employer or developer to cooperate with us. No enforcement, complex plan levels, or detailed reporting requirements would be included in alignment with efforts to minimize the burdens on businesses and developers. Again, we appreciate the ongoing discussions that we've had with members of the T&E committee, and we hope to continue to work together to support the county's transportation demand management program and to meet the county and state's transportation and climate goals.
Thank you. Mr. Commoners?
Good afternoon, President Stewart, members of the council. My name is Bill Commoners with Lurch, Early and Brewer, but I'm speaking today as an individual to express strong support for Bill 2425 to repeal Chapter 42A section. This bill is an idea whose time has come because the TDM methodology of Chapter 42A is an idea whose time has passed. This bill takes an important step toward removing burdens from the private sector, burdens over which they have no control. As noted in Councilmember Balcom's memorandum, significant changes in commuting have occurred. Recent surveys are noted as indicating that the county has exceeded commuting goals. Repeal is appropriate. If the county wants to continue TDM efforts, which is fine, the county should operate the program in a way that becomes a public service. Make it into a carrot, not a stick. The legislation in 2019 unfortunately returned to a project-by-project evaluation that looks to each project to achieve goals individually and internally as a silo to itself. But the instrumentalities for shared commuting are not under the control of the employers. The county is in control. The county could easily take steps in all good faith that make it harder for an employer to have sufficient commuting options to achieve the goals. Then, the current law penalizes employers for failing to achieve the results that are out of its control. Success or failure is uniquely in the hands of their employees. With this project-based approach, only employees of the individual project are available for marketing. This reduces the pool of potential participants. Neighbors working in neighboring buildings may never connect for carpool because each is in a programmatic silo. Another deficiency in the current law is that it requires the agreement on TDM measures to be finalized prior to the issuance of a building permit. This is premature and places an unnecessary roadblock on getting to building permit issuance. Previously, the deadline was at building occupancy. At issuance of the building permit, there are very few people using the building because it hasn't been built yet. At occupancy, however, there will be people to use the TDM measures. In summary, the time has come. This portion of Chapter 48A should go. Thank you for your consideration of my comments.
Thank you very much. Ms. Weber?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Stewart, Council Vice President Joando, and members of the Council. For the record, I'm Leslie Ford Weber, Associate Director of Maryland Government Affairs for Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. I'm here today on behalf of Suburban Hospital to offer our support for Bill 2425 to repeal transportation demand management agreements. Since 1943, Suburban has been located on the same campus on Old Georgetown Road in Bethesda and now employs 1,500 full and part-time workers at that site. Even though this location is a mile away from the Bethesda Central Business District, the hospital was required to execute one of these agreements in 2015 as construction was getting underway for a new parking structure in addition to the hospital. Let me give you a flavor of what this agreement compels Suburban Hospital to do in perpetuity. Designate an employee as a transportation benefits coordinator to promote commuting alternatives to our employees. Host the MCDOT or their contractors for marketing and promotional activities, even though this contravenes our policies on outside solicitation. Annually survey our employees about their private transportation and commuting practices. Provide a shuttle for employees between the campus and the Bethesda Metro Station, duplicating Route 47 of the Ride-On system. Provide 2 real-time transportation information boards at our facility. Provide public transit subsidies to employees on request. Provide redundant bicycle infrastructure on campus, including a secure bike cage in the garage, bike lockers on our property, and bicycle racks near the building. Provide shower facilities for employees who bike or walk to work, and file an annual report to the MCDOT. What do these requirements have in common? None of them enhance the delivery of health care to our community, which is the reason for our being. And by the way, those 10 bike lockers are unsightly, impede a pedestrian walkway, and have never been requested for use in the last 10 years. Negotiating the agreement took time away from other important project planning activities and generated legal expenses. Satisfying the requirements continues to take time and money away from other activities more central to our mission. Nullifying the agreement would provide flexibility for Suburban to operate the hospital to satisfy the medical needs of the community, and the opportunity for Suburban to offer benefits and amenities to our employees that they need and request. So I urge you to vote yes on Bill 2425. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the public testimony in person for this bill. Thank you for joining us. And now we have one virtual participant, Shane Pollan.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Shane Pollan, and I'm the principal of PS Ventures. I've specialized in the development of high-performance green buildings in Montgomery County for over 20 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of Bill 2425 to repeal the current TDM law. Montgomery County has long recognized the importance of promoting diverse modes of transportation. Reducing single-occupant vehicle use is a worthwhile and shared goal, particularly in addressing congestion and sustainability. Unfortunately, I believe that the current transportation management law, particularly its use of non-auto driver mode share, or NADMS, as a requirement tied to individual projects, presents serious challenges. I strongly suspect that the difficulties and burdens associated with tracking this metric at the level of an individual project played no small part in the, quote, inadequate survey results, end quote, identified in the two IG reports. I support the repeal of the current TDM law and hope that the challenges associated with the current law can be learned from to avoid incorporating the same flaws in subsequent TDM efforts. The core issue is one of fairness and feasibility. NADMS may be a useful regional level metric. Indeed, that's how it's most commonly used outside of Montgomery County to assess broad transportation patterns and policy effectiveness. But at the level of an individual development, it becomes problematic when treated as a project performance standard. Whether people choose to walk, bike, telework, or drive is influenced by a wide range of external factors: the availability, frequency, and reliability of transit, employer work and telework policies, seasonal weather, and family responsibilities, to name just a few. I believe that these external factors play a far greater role in achieving lower NADMS outcomes than the design features of an individual project or offerings of a building's owner. To be clear, project developers can and should be encouraged to implement strategies to encourage alternative forms of transportation. We could provide adequate bike, e-mobility, device storage with power, incorporate shower facilities, provide easy access to commuter information, to name a few measures within our control. But we cannot build BRT lines, expand local bus routes, or dictate commuting behavior. Holding individual projects accountable for a region-wide outcome places an undue burden on private developments. It's not only difficult to comply with, but also to track and enforce fairly and meaningfully, as history has shown. A more effective approach would focus on clear, measurable actions, requiring projects to commit to proven site-specific strategies that support the county-wide goal of reducing NADMS. Thank you for your willingness to take a pragmatic look at this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are all the speakers for this public hearing. The public hearing is now closed. On to item 11, which is the second public hearing and action on a resolution to approve the creation of a development district and tax increment financing district, White Oak. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. As a reminder, public hearing testimony guidelines: your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You'll hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. We have two speakers in person today, David Bramble and Barry Wides. Yes. All right, Mr. Bramble, you are up first.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today. Council President Stewart and esteemed members of the Council, Vice President Juando. My name is David Bramble. I'm the Managing Partner of MCB Real Estate, and I'm here today to represent the development team for the 280-acre Viva White Oak project. We strongly support, for obvious reasons, the creation of a development district which unlocks financing that is essential for this mixed-use project to move forward, bringing housing, community retail, jobs, and public trails and amenities to East County. Our involvement in Viva White Oak is a deliberate continuation of our mission to support community-centered development. This mission stems from who I am as a person. I was raised in West Baltimore, where I still live today with my family. My parents immigrated from the West Indies and built a life rooted in hard work, faith, and entrepreneurship. Their legacy of community investment and vision drives much of what we do today. Since 2007, my partner Peter Pinkert and I have grown MCB into a 140-person company that embodies these values. We invest across the United States, but we have deep roots here in our home in Maryland, and we have delivered transformative projects in underinvested areas, which my colleagues have highlighted in her previous testimony last month, while continuously supporting minority and women-owned businesses. Viva White Oak is one of the most important opportunities we have ever taken on. This 280-acre site in East County has seen years and years of planning, but little progress, due largely to one barrier: a lack of infrastructure. No roads, no sidewalks, no sewers. The TIF that will be before you in the future is the critical tool that unlocks this site to catalytic investment without raising taxes or diverting existing county funds. Let me be clear, this is not a subsidy. It is not a tax break. It is an important financing tool that uses future property tax revenue that would not exist without the project being developed, to fund critical public improvements. And if for any reason that revenue falls short, the developer is on the hook. There is zero financial risk to the county. In return, this project is expected to deliver 4,700 new homes, both for sale and rental, across price points. Over 500,000 feet of retail organized around a central gathering space, 1.7 million square feet of innovation space, plus hospitality and healthcare, 17,000 construction jobs, and more importantly, 9,000 permanent jobs. 62 million in new revenue and new annual revenue to the county upon full build-out. It will bring parks, bike lanes, trails, and open space to an area that has long been left behind, and most importantly, it will bring East County the kind of intentional, inclusive investment it has waited too long to receive. The East County community supports this project, the business community supports it, and we are ready to deliver with local hiring, MBE and WBE participation, and deep commitment to transparency and partnership with the council. This is an important opportunity to bring long overdue infrastructure to East County, to spark economic growth, housing opportunity in a way that is equitable, sustainable, and fully responsible. Thank you for your leadership, and I respectfully urge your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bramble. Mr. Wise?
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm Barry Whitus. I'm president of the North White Oak Civic Association, which is very, very close to the proposed development at Viva White Oak. We're generally supportive of the project. However, we have concerns about the use of the TIF proceeds being limited to the envelope of the property itself. Certainly understand the point that was made about the need to remediate and to build infrastructure, but at the same time, we're talking about a city with almost 5,000 units and 2.5 million square feet of commercial space in a property that unfortunately is landlocked on two sides by the federal government, the FDA on one side and the Army on the other side. So there is no possibility of any egress and ingress to this facility other than through Cherry Hill Road and through US 29. And both of those are not adequate to handle the kind of traffic that a city of perhaps 15,000 people would generate. So our proposal of our civic association is to expand the TIF to include specific portions of Cherry Hill Road and US 29, because frankly I think it's very unlikely that the state or the county is going to be able to come through without this TIF money to cover some of the improvements that are needed to cover the ingress and egress to Viva White Oak. Just for those of you that haven't been on US 29 during rush hour, We're looking at a 30-minute drive from Fairland Road to downtown Silver Spring. It's projected to be 46 minutes under the traffic study that was done as part of the master plan a few years ago. It's probably gotten worse since they've done it. So that would be one recommendation. And then the other recommendation is to direct the planning board as part of the follow-on to this TIF to look at the adequacy of public infrastructure, the arterial roads leading in and out, or that lead to in and out of Viva White Oak. The planning board took this matter up on May 29th and voted approval of the sketch plan, but they, Chairman Harris as well as Mitria, both said that they were concerned about the traffic, but their hands were tied because of the LATIP, that they were really not permitted to look at the adequacy of infrastructure. So we would ask that the council send a letter to the planning board instructing them to look at the adequacy of infrastructure, the costs, and look at that in relation to the amount of money that could be generated by a TIF, and certainly encouraged to hear the $62 million figure that it would generate. Hopefully those monies would cover the cost of defeasing those bonds if they were needed to work on those roadways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both of you, and Mr. Bramble, thank you for your patience this afternoon and safe travels back to Baltimore. Appreciate it. Those are all the speakers we have this afternoon. This public hearing is now closed. We'll now move on to the action portion of this item. The council is considering action on a resolution to create a development district and tax increment financing district in White Oak. If the resolution passes, the next step is for the proposed development district to be reviewed by the planning board for adequate public facilities. Following the planning board's review by the county executive will review the development district and prepare a fiscal report. The council will then review the executive's fiscal report and will vote on a second resolution to actually create the TIF or development district. So to clarify, the resolution today is to enable the process and analysis to move forward. And Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez, did you have a question? Or yeah, okay. Why don't I ask if there's a motion to move the resolution? Councilmember Mink moved, Councilmember Lukey seconded, and your comment, Councilmember.
Oh, thank you. Definitely support. So just putting that out of the way. But as we work towards working on the TIF, there are 4 things that I want to make sure that I'm on the record, that I look forward to seeing it once we see details about this program in the fall, I'm assuming. 4 things. 1, it must include the promised life sciences companies and job pieces, not just saying it might come later on. 2, it must realize the master plan vision of walkable, bikeable urban town centers with a variety of amenities, retail, and parks that we always talked about. 3, it must meet the high levels of affordability in the residential component. We just approved the office to housing conversion when we require 17.5% affordability. So it must include that. And 4, and finally, I would say that the TIF must include some type of big public amenity that will bring people in to the East County. If you look at the TIF in other places in the region, like Alexandria and so forth, they have contributed to, like in Alexandria, for example, I know they have contributed to the development of the Alexandria Metro Station, none of them. So it has to be something that we are cashing in. Another example, as you all know, this council put together the Sports Tourism Task Force, and right now that task force is looking for places across the county to identify a multi-use facility to hold high school graduations and sports competitions. East County will be an amazing place to have such facility, and the TIF could very well help fund it. So I look forward to those details as we move forward with this. Otherwise, I would not vote for it. Mm-hmm. There you go. Done.
Thank you. Councilmember Mink.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I wanted to thank Mr. Wides and Mr. Bramble for sticking it out with us today. Really, really appreciate it. Really long day and really important words from both of you. Thank you so much. And second, I wanted to recognize and really thank my colleagues for their consistent support of and engagement in, and thank you, Councilmember Freda Gonzalez, in delivering the much needed and overdue investment in East County. I remain really grateful that addressing the historic inequities in East County, which is a tremendous benefit, to be very clear, not just to East County, but to the entire county, has not been my priority alone as district council member. It is a shared goal, and it will be a part of this council's shared story. And Viva White Oak, which we have all been dedicated to keeping on track, will stand as likely the most visible and exciting pieces of this legacy. So thank you all so very much. As the council president stated, the resolution we're voting on today is not a sexy one. It's not on the details of the development or of the financing package. It's just on the intention of considering the creation of the relevant development district, et cetera. It's essentially, it's the next step forward in a complicated process. And I know that all of us, as we've heard from my colleagues, we're all very excited and eager to dig much further into those very important and much more interesting details. And following the passage of this resolution, the planning board will be tasked with completing an adequate public facilities analysis, and that will be part of the full package that will come back to the council as expected in the fall. East County residents, and huge thanks to them, have been very deeply engaged in this process throughout, and I also want to thank MCB for their consistent outreach to the community, which has continued to pull in folks and keep everyone up to date, keep community members up to date and engaged. And community members have shared some of what they're going to be looking for in that analysis as well, in terms of the private and public amenities and infrastructure, including parks and green space, public gathering space, and transportation infrastructure to address traffic concerns on roads that will be impacted by the project. I will be sending a memo to the planning board about this, but very much welcome my colleagues' input and partnership on that. Exciting next step. For today, of course, I ask my colleagues to continue their support. I know they will, for investment in East County by voting in favor of this resolution, and I look forward to working with everyone to get all the details right in terms of the project and the financing components, so we can get this done. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Council Vice President Joando.
Thank you. Appreciate the district council members' comments. I share, as an East County resident, in the excitement of this project. Living at New Hampshire and Randolph for 15 years, and which turns into Cherry Hill Road if you go down Randolph, if you know. And this project, so many of us, even before I got on the council, we had meetings about the previous iteration of this project. We approved so many incentives to try to move this along over the years, and it's just really exciting. I do think this is the moment to celebrate that this is going to take us to the next step. The details will matter. We won't agree on everything. We're going to ask for more. You're going to push back, and all that's going to happen. But this is an exciting moment in time to use this innovative strategy to really deliver a public benefit to residents, to my neighbors, to our neighbors who deserve it. And I want to thank Mr. Bramble and his team. I want to thank all of the civic associations. We have two of the powerhouses of the East County here in Hillendale and North White Oak, and Barry and Eileen in the room right now for this momentous occasion. And I'll add one more thing to the agenda that we have talked about. This won't be a surprise. I think it's important because we just had the labor peace agreement discussion. I expect that these great jobs will have a strong component to be living wage, life-sustaining jobs in the folks that build this project. We talked about 17,000 construction jobs, and I think there's enough opportunity here to make that happen. And I appreciate previous conversations even on that point. So excited about this, looking forward to enthusiastically voting for it and to getting into the details as we move along. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other comments, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. So thank you to everyone. That is our last item on our agenda this afternoon. Our meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right.